Welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started with our council meeting here this evening, Monday, March 7th, 2022. Welcome to our council city chambers. We have a lot of wonderful, bright, shiny faces here that we are so excited to have here, these young ladies. We're going to go ahead and start off this evening. We always like to begin our council meetings with an invocation. And I'd like to invite Councilmember Mike Vanchery to offer that for us.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we're so glad to be here together as friends and public servants and as citizens of Linden to conduct the business of this good city. We are thankful for those who give their time and talents and treasure to make our community a better place. We're thankful for those that work for the city that put in so much time and effort. And we're thankful for the many blessings that we enjoy by being citizens of this free country. We pray that thou wilt bless this country, that it will be a place of safety and a haven for those seeking liberty and freedoms. I ask you to bless this meeting, Heavenly Father, that thou will be here with us, that our deliberations will be wise and cordial, and that we'll be able to have guidance and direction in the decisions and the discussions that we have. As always, we pray for our families in our absence, that they would be compensated for our time away, and know that we love and care for them. And these things we pray for humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Councilmember Vanchery. All right, so our next order of business, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have Miss Sophie Woods who will lead us in the pledge.
All right, everyone could stand up and I'll start off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much, Sophie. Great job. Was that your first time leading a pledge? Love it. All right. Now, the next item on our agenda, which these are at the front of the room if you want a copy, a hard copy of what we're going to be covering tonight. So item number 3 is open session for public comment. These are for items that are not on our agenda.
Presentations.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. I'm skipping ahead. I need to do the call to order and our roll call. So I'll start here on my left with our call of order and for the evening.
Mike Vanchery, present.
Jake Hoyt, present.
Carolyn Lundberg, present.
Daryl Magleby, present.
Van Broderick, present.
All right.
He is absent tonight.
Right, Councilmember Powell is noted, not feeling well this evening, so we wish her well. All right, and then item number 2, this is where we have some special, I see we have a lot of young ladies and their families here. We are very excited to have them present our 2022 Little Miss Linden royalty and our outgoing 2021 royalty. So I will turn the time over to you for your presentation.
On behalf of our 2020 and 2021 royalty, we'd like to thank our City Council for all your support and City Administration for all that you do for us through the many years that we've been here, and we hope to continue to serve for many more to come. Tessa, our current queen, is at a mandatory dance dress rehearsal thing, so she is not here. But these girls, Carly, Ellery, and Emmy, would just like to say thank you with our little loaves of bread here. So please hand these out to our city council.
Thank
right
you.
here. Kathy Mosman in the back. Adam Cowie over here. Chief. There's no. Where's
Heath's
Heath's not here? Yeah.
He will be here later, I would
Okay.
expect.
So we have one for Heath.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tracy.
Box like.
Yes,
Does she have a box?
she
Okay.
does.
Okay. Give one to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. So, before you leave, this is your final official duty with your Little Miss Linden crown. So we'd love to hear from you, young ladies. What was your, share us with us tonight, something that is your greatest memory or experience that you had here. How you, or something that you think you've grown in. You've physically grown. 2 years, you're a lot taller and bigger than our Little Miss Linden usually get in a year.
I think my favorite part was just being with the girls, and now we're like besties and like almost like sisters. So it's my favorite.
That's wonderful.
My favorite part has been being able to go out of my comfort zone a lot more.
My favorite part was being able to just serve everyone that I wouldn't have the opportunity to serve otherwise, and just having that great feeling.
You're awesome.
Was it one of your sisters?
Yes.
So her sister served the first year, and she didn't continue on the second year because of COVID, and that's
Gotcha.
when we called judges and auditors, and Carly Nelson was put in, so. Okay, and I'm gonna introduce our 2022 royalty. When you girls get your name called, come stand up, and we're gonna get a picture with everyone. That's what we do, pictures. Okay, so our 2022 Little Miss Linden is Jordan Judd, right here. And superintendents are Ella Woods, Elsie Thomas, and Audrey Lloyd. Yay! Okay, so we're gonna have the two littles next to the queen and the big ones on the end, okay? And then can we get you guys to
All right.
get a picture?
Do our council photo.
And Adam too. Yep, we're gonna shift you down, so Audrey, right down here. Keep going. Did we leave one for Keith? Did he get one? He came in. I think he does Boyer. Okay, all right. Keith, we're gonna go here, look at me first, and then we'll do the other parents behind me, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Okay, hold still.
Are they going to do a musical?
We're not. We do it like a pageant.
You know, where they sing?
Yes, you should come to our pageant. They're fantastic.
Is it like at a talent show?
Yes. Thank you again, council, for all your support. We love you guys, and we love this city. We love serving.
Well,
So, thank you.
Tracy and Ashley and your team, you guys are tremendous, and we're so excited for Chloe and Elsie and Jordan, and who am I forgetting? Chloe, Elsie, Jordan, Audrey, and Ella. Yes, we're going to get to know you so well. That is wonderful. You guys, we are so grateful for you and what you and your families are going to do for the community and the outgoing families. You guys, especially doing 2 years of service. We know we can't do a lot of our activities and the events that we have in the city without you. You're just tremendous. It's a ton of cumulative hours of service, and we are very grateful. So thank you. We're excited to work with you this year.
I assume that's a guest.
All right, now we'll have the open session for public comment. If anyone would like to address the council for something that's not on the agenda, we ask you to come here to the table and announce your name and address. Go ahead and take a seat here.
Thank you, ladies.
I have something to announce. Well, to ask.
All right, go ahead and please state your name
Oh, do I sit down here?
and that is perfect. Yes, thank you.
Okay. My name's Ben Rogers. I used to live in Provo, Utah for 26 years, and then I moved here in 2015. And I lived here for 7 years. But as you know, I go to the library to read books, you know, or check out DVDs. But recently, the Orem Library's prices have gone up, and it's getting too expensive. Are we going to have a Linden City Library?
Oh.
Because I don't see one anywhere.
Right, so Linden is a smaller community.
Yes.
We do have a library reimbursement program, and that is something that we're going to be talking about in our current budget.
Yes, because it's too expensive. And also, there's a Linden Temple being built. Are they going to have a UTA bus service over there?
Not that we're aware of.
They really should.
So they will,
And-
they do have a current line on State Street, and then
Right.
we'll have sidewalk all the way down Center.
Yeah, and also, what about a movie theater or maybe a bike shop around the commercial areas? We don't have those around Linden. And we also don't have a grocery store where Alan's store used to be. I'm wondering if we're gonna have a grocery store that's more closer than Walmart.
Well, those are things that we would certainly love to have in our community. A lot of those things are not in the city's control. It takes, a commercial bike shop to want to come locate here, but
Yeah,
we'd love to
Cause
invite
we
anyone to do
bike a
that.
lot,
That's great.
and I tend to get flat tires. If we had a bike shop here, it'd be a lot easier, because we don't
Right.
have one close by, and we do not have a Linden City Library. Well, the reason why I want a Linden City Library especially is because I don't want to have to pay $120 at the Orem Library, and I don't want to have to bike all the way over there to check out a book. And another reason is so we can have our theater plays over there, or story time, and also to have the same kind of books Pleasant Grove Library has and such. So do you think we're gonna have a library soon built on one of the properties?
Well, building a library is a very large capital expense for the taxpayers and the residents. That's something that maybe, we've been talking about getting some feedback from the community. Certainly, we have a library reimbursement program right now where you
Yeah.
can get some of those funds reimbursed, and then you can choose which library system you prefer to go to. But those are great comments. I've heard those before. I think the council has as well.
Yeah,
And so we really appreciate you sharing those comments and things.
I'm about done. A few more things. I do not like daylight savings. I wish daylight savings would go away. It's a pain to have to fast forward the watch or rewind it. And last thing, over in Orem, State Street is very busy. While we're lucky to have a underpass bridge, Orem does not have an overpass bridge where I can safely cross State Street. Is there gonna be an overpass bridge at the University Mall or the Orem Library?
In that area, I'm not familiar with any plans as such, and
There really
but we
should be.
could, we
It's really
sometimes
dangerous.
coordinate with Orem City in talking about transportation issues, and so,
That's an issue I have. So,
okay,
well,
thank you very
thanks for
much.
listening to me.
Thanks for your passion. I love it. I'm with you on daylight savings, 100%. Let's start a petition. We need it. Let's get rid of it.
Just keep it consistent,
love it?
absolutely.
For a daylight spending time.
There you go.
We always do daylight savings.
How would that work? Can you explain?
Just get an extra hour every day.
Or need an hour less of sleep, right? Okay.
It wouldn't work, no.
All right, thank you so much. So item number 4, council reports. Van, would you like to start us off on your council reports there?
Sure, yes, I'll go
Thank you.
quickly. Attended the Atento ribbon cutting, and I'm not gonna steal the mayor's thunder, but I loved her comments and her ability with Spanish, very impressive, so thank you, very good. And then also, this is brag on the mayor day, attended the Pleasant Grove Linden Chamber of Commerce and got to listen to our wonderful mayor describe the wonderful things that have been happening in Linden with the State of the City report, so very nicely done. I don't know if you were gonna mention it, and you can go further, but both of them very, very well done.
Thank you.
Water meetings continue to occur and happen, and I attend those. This is the time of year for that. So, just a quick report there.
Thank you. And Daryl, anything you'd like to report?
I had the opportunity a week or so ago to attend my first planning commission meeting, and a lot of those agenda items are on our agenda today and will be discussed. But I was very impressed with the commissioners that are involved there. They take their responsibilities very serious, and I was very impressed with what I observed that evening. Regarding Linden Days, we do need to decide on a grand marshal, and some names are coming in, and Heath and I will be working with his staff regarding that, and we'll present some names in the future for
Right.
that.
Are we doing
We
that
have-
tonight?
Actually included a list tonight of our past.
Yeah, I see that
names,
list.
so
That helps us to know who's done it in the last 20-plus years. And
Good. Do
I
you
have
want-
one specifically that I am intrigued with, but we can discuss that when we get to that, unless we're there now, but.
When do you want to do that, Adam? Or,
do that now, that's fine.
We very well could. Well, I think there's a natural, obvious choice. I can imagine who you're thinking of.
Yeah, Jeff and Karen Agerson would be who
Absolutely.
I'd suggest, but it probably comes down to their time and commitment to other things and make sure that they're available during that week, but that would be a,
How does the council
High on
feel
my
about
list.
reaching out to them as
100%.
a first choice?
Absolutely.
I think we give you the green light to
Keith, do you have other
ask them.
comments on that?
I do. I think it would be well worth it, but I also have a centennial coming in 2024.
Oh,
And that was just my thought. It'd be great at any time, but 2024 might be really special at the 100-year celebration. Or someone else. That was just
The
my thought.
2024, what would be amazing would to invite all past mayors and even past councils to have some appreciation or a parade entry. That would be so. Well, do you want us to discuss some names to reach out by tonight and start those discussions?
Possible. It'd be great. It would be
So taking his comment into consideration, does that change anyone's sense of who we want to reaching out to the Acersons as our primary selection
Are
for
there
this year?
other names that anyone's considered
Have we
or thought about?
Have we ever considered Allen College? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we consider what he's done with the.
I was
Right.
thinking we had asked Alan a year or two
That's
back
kinda
and
what
then he
comes to my
said
mind.
no.
He said no, yeah. But who knows now? I mean,
I like that as a backup. I think Alan would do great.
All right.
Let's
That
start with
would
those
be
two.
wonderful to extend the invitation.
And what are the
Absolutely.
dates on that? Is that, did we go actually July 31st?
That's the first Saturday, and then it goes to the following Saturday. The 6th, I believe, is the last day, and so that is the parade day. And also, there's been some discussion regarding what we should do on that breakfast, and going to be working with the chief and
Police and fire.
Chiefs and Fire to
Thank you,
discuss what we
Darryl.
want to do there.
So what's gonna go, what are the dates then? Is it July 31st, that Sunday, or is it Saturday? So July 30th
The 30th
through August 6th.
through August 6th.
would that be the day the parade would be the 30th?
And Kathy, do you know if that's been updated on the
It says,
website?
what I was given, the 31st through the 7th, is what Hannah has on Linden Days on the website.
I think that was last year. I'll make
Oh,
sure
it
that gets
is.
updated.
No, yeah, I asked, anyway, we've talked about it, Heath and I.
Very good. Appreciate that. All right. Anything else, Daryl?
One item on the tree advisory board, there's a meeting scheduled for March 30th that I'll attend, and that's,
Thank you. Are they gearing up for Arbor Day?
yes, they are.
Okay. Do we have a date set for an Arbor Day citywide? Okay. We'll look forward
don't
to
think
hearing more
so.
about that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, well, yeah, there's been a lot going on. I'm sure, thank you to the council members and staff that were able to attend both the UDOT pedestrian study meeting with the interchange and some of those issues that we're going to be needing to look at over the next 10 years. And then also, the Atento ribbon cutting was really exciting to get globally present company, international company there that's going to create a lot of jobs, about 400 jobs right here in Linden. And then also our State of the Cities was great. Thank you for coming, y'all, to that. And I appreciate staff for providing a lot of those data points as well. So thank you, everyone. It's a team effort for sure. There's a lot of good things on the horizon. I'm not going to take time now as much. We'll just continue on. We've got a very heavy agenda tonight. So in the essence of time, I'll move forward.
Awesome. Just a couple of quick updates. Also attended the State of the Cities. Fun to not compete with Pleasant Grove, but Carolyn does such a great job, and so many great things going on here and in Pleasant Grove as well. So great job there. Parks and Rec, Heath does an incredible job. As you all know, we have 11,000 plus residents here. 10% of those residents have signed up for kids soccer. We have 1,150 kids signed up for youth soccer, a new record for any sports program in Parks and Rec history. So it's an incredible program. I'm a coach. I've got 3 kids signed up in it. I love it. It's run so well. So fun that that's starting. A couple other quick announcements is our pool positions are opening up if you have any kids in your ward or in your community neighborhood that would like to apply. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
I have a comment to make.
Oh, sorry, right now it's council reports, it's not public comment time, so I will say that just a moment. All right, go ahead.
Anderson Farm Park going in, making some progress, as well as Citizenship Park and Panorama Park are having some things replaced this month. Switch over to police. Chief Brower and I are in communication on a weekly basis. Just several good stories from this week, but one that I'd like to convey to the council. There was a Facebook post you may have all seen about 2 dogs that had killed another small dog. The owner of that dog, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, saw the post, turned himself in, and is following the procedures that, what may come from that. So cool for us to use the city Facebook page, or was it the police Facebook page? Did the police have a Facebook page?
Did both.
Both. Really cool. Anyways, last but not least, I've planning on going to the League of Cities and Towns convention. Do you want us to sign up ourselves? Okay.
That's easiest because
And
there's
then just do a
different
full
selections for
reimbursement.
some classes or special events and,
Great.
yeah.
Very
all I have.
good.
All right, thank you. I had Juan from our Public Works Department and Adam reach out to me relative to the situation or the relationship between North Point Solid Waste Special Services District and the city as far as cleaning up along the roadway, especially from 200 south along 2000 west to the entry or a little bit further past. And there was even some suggestions that we might want to go down to 1600 north and maybe to the Pleasant Grove Boulevard interchange. Done
Mike,
some research.
may I ask you to pull your microphone a little
Oh, I'm
closer for
sorry.
those that might be online
Yeah,
and recording?
yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you.
Just not used to having people tell me they can't hear me, so. I did get a response back from Neil Schwindeman, and I talked to one of the other board members who's been on the board for quite a while, and the response was this, and we don't have to finalize it tonight. He reached out to the former director, Roger, and says, Roger said that Linden scheduled and paid for the juveniles to clean and would then send the district an invoice for reimbursement.
Huh. Well, maybe that's why it's so dirty, is we don't know that. So.
Well, yeah, and I don't know that we did either, and that's certainly not in cement. I mean, we're willing to, I guess I am we too, but we're willing to sit down and if we need to put something formally in writing, but we do have a line item apparently for that. So let's just,
Anybody? I don't, okay, we'll have to look into that more. That's not something I recall that's how that was handled, but.
well, and that's part of the issue, I think, is there's never been anything put in writing.
Maybe not.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's easy enough to solve, so.
Okay.
Went to a Chamber of Commerce board meeting this week, and that was very exciting. We're already getting quite a few sponsorships for our golf tournament. That's going to be a good one, and there's a lot of good things going on with the chamber, ribbon cuttings, and I'll admit, I didn't know that much about the chamber until I was fortunate enough to get on the board, but very impressed with how active they are, how involved they are, and I think the only thing that would make it better is for us to get more members, just as many members as we can, so.
Absolutely.
And then quickly, as far as general plan and planning, Mike will probably report on this tonight, but we're very close to, once we approve, we're very close to awarding the contract for the general plan.
We've got that tonight.
Yeah, we've got that on the agenda, and it looks like they've had a lot of experience and so forth, but again, Mike will explain that to you. In our Development Review Committee meeting this morning, we have some potential upcoming things that Some of them are gonna be a little bit of challenge, but, again, we have a steady flow of developers and people coming in, asking questions and wanting to know what they need to do to, and almost to a person, they're very, amenable. You know, we share with them what the expectations are in terms of design and landscaping requirements and so forth, and almost without exception, they're great with that. They want to see Linden be as nice as we'd like to see it, so. And I think that's all for now.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, and, you know, one of the things that I think a lot of residents are very pleased to see that we're trying to have different areas kept nice and beautification of our streets, so thank you for those efforts. And in regards to the general plan, one of the things that we've been discussing is creating some citizen committees
Oh,
around
yes,
that as well.
forgot
And that
about
will be
that.
something we'll discuss at a later point, but getting more of the community involved.
Let me just make one more comment. I'm sure you all are, I've been getting a lot of outreach from citizens wanting to know what's going to happen with Center Street in lieu of the temple being there. And I'm sure we have plans, but I would feel comfortable if we could make certain that even now, start reaching out to our citizens and letting them know what to expect and what our plans are.
We have some dates that we've earmarked for some discussions with you as a council before we go to the public with more information.
Great.
So-
Right,
Yeah,
we've
that'd be
definitely engaged the public, that's gonna be a priority. Also, just really quickly, I need to mention with the chamber, they recently, they have a donation coming for our new youth programs, our youth police academy and our youth council, which wanna thank the chamber for that, the recent fundraiser they did. We're expecting about $2,000 for those youth programs, so. And I'd like to invite our chief just to say a couple words about how the police academy has met their young people and how that they kicked that off officially, if you want to share a minute.
Yeah, just real briefly, we finished week 1 on Tuesday and Thursday nights, 10 cadets, we call them, and they're full of energy, they're passionate, they're starting to gel real well together, having a good time. They've been through an orientation tour and some basic searching skills. This week, we'll move into some patrol functions and a little more education related to a role of a police officer, code ethics, things like that. So we're excited, they're excited, and soon we'll have them little shirts and some little ID badges, and it should make it a good thing. We've explained the potential for the program after 5 weeks, the graduation, and then continuing with certain events, helping us with Linden Days, Memorial Day event, things like that. So we're excited about it. We'll move forward and keep you posted at the end.
Thank you so much, Chief. Fantastic. Okay, and then our administrator's report.
Just wanted to just remind you, there was an email I forwarded you this afternoon. Randy mentioned an event on Wednesday, April 13th at 10 a.m. It's at the Senior Center. It's an Easter brunch. If you're interested in participating and going just to meet and get to know some of our seniors that attend that, so. And then also, other than those items that we listed there on the administrator's report, we have the spring cleanup dates. We talked about the Grand Marshal. We've been invited a couple years ago, Pleasant Grove and Linden and American Fork City Councils got together for a social. It was just kind of a meet and greet dinner, and I don't think I was actually there. They would like to repeat that, and they've extended an invite again, and including Cedar Hills as well. So this is scheduled for Monday, April 25th at 5:30. Monday, April 25th at 5:30. Just a city council social at the Fox Hollow Golf Clubhouse there in American Fork.
You said that was 5 o'clock?
5:30. Yeah, Monday,
That
April
sounds great.
25th at 5:30, and that's just whomever can attend. We're not advertising that as a meeting. This is just a social gathering, and so
Are spouses invited or no?
I don't know the
I would
answer to
imagine
that. I
it's
will
just
have to
elected
ask.
officials typically.
Okay,
But we
so
could
hasn't been,
clarify.
it's just been done once before, and, but, so that'll be PG, AF, Cedar Hills, and Linden.
Anything else? Okay.
That's all I have, thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, I know we were trying to get some things going together and COVID came. So it'll be great to meet some of the other elected officials. We have a lot of interlocal agreements and joint interests with our neighboring sister cities. So it's always great to learn how we can help and collaborate with one another. All right, so we'll move on then to item number 6. This is the approval of the minutes for our council meeting, February 7th, 2022. Council, do you have any comments in reviewing those? Any changes?
I have no changes.
I've got a couple.
All right,
Nothing of
please.
substance. On the open session for public comment on page 14, or excuse me, line 14 and 15, I wasn't quite sure what we're trying to say there. It just said, he noted, wait a minute. He would encourage the council to recognize the commitment to those who have reckoned themselves to public scrutiny.
What page are you on?
Oh, hold on. Yeah, my computer's slow tonight, sorry.
Page 2 of 20 of the minutes.
Yeah. I've got it as page 11, but I'm not,
Yeah, page 11 of the
yeah,
packet.
page 11, line 15. I think I know what we're trying to say, but I just wasn't.
Kathy, you were just copying verbatim what you had on the recording, or
Yes,
was that a summary?
but I can go over it again.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, it's no big deal. And then one other one, and I'll have to find it. I think you mentioned, I had reported that I had been elected chair for the North Point Solid Waste, and I think it's showing vice chair, which, you know, big deal.
Do you have a line for that? Page?
Yes, thank you. That's my line. No,
Okay, very good.
I'll find it.
Just send it to me, Mike, would you?
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so any other comments regarding the minutes?
Approve?
Oops.
Sorry, go ahead.
Make a motion to approve the city council meeting minutes of February 7th, 2022 with the adjustments noted.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We have a motion by Councilmember Broderick and seconded by Councilmember Magleby. All in favor?
Aye.
Much, council. All right, we'll move forward. We have no need for item number 7, the consent agenda, as there are no consent agenda items this evening. So we'll move on to item number 8. This is a review and action of the major subdivision, Elwood Holdings. And we'll have staff go ahead and present. Thank you, Mr. Florence.
Mayor, I'll recuse myself for potential conflict of interest.
All right.
Mayor and council members, you're very familiar with this project. The Planning Commission recently reviewed it for conditional use permit approval, site plan approval, and then a recommendation to the city council on the subdivision, so major subdivision approval. So that's what you're hearing tonight is the major subdivision approval. The Planning Commission granted site plan and conditional use permit approval for the residential portion. They they continued the item for conditional use permit and site plan approval of the commercial site. And so this evening, what you're reviewing is the 65 residential lots, so 46 townhome lots and 19 single-family lots, and then the 4 commercial lots. So I've got the plats here on the screen. You can see the 4 commercial lots, lot 1 here, lot 2, lot 3, and then lot 4 there that's on 500 North. And then the plat for the residential is here. You can see the 46 townhome lots across here in this area, and then the 19 single-family lots. As we went through, as engineering and the planning departments, we went through the subdivision proposal. We found that it meets the subdivision requirements of our city code and the planned residential development. Just to give you an update on some of the main points, The density is 8.47 units to the acre. That's what the council approved with the zone change. There's a total of 281 parking stalls, so that includes the 2-car garages for each unit. So all the units are 2-car garages. There's 2 spaces on the driveway, and then there's 21 off-site or on-street visitor parking stalls, so that are, move that over. So you can see the areas designated on the site plan for the visitor parking spaces. So there's 21 of those. You're not reviewing the design standards for the development. Here's the latest proposal for the commercial. This has been kept back at the Planning Commission, but you can kind of see the direction they're going. The mayor and I talked a little bit about the building today as well, and I'll pass on some information. But we're continuing to work on that, on this building. You can see the different, this is be the side elevation and rear elevation of that building. So they'd propose 1 commercial building right now. They're working on the other 3 lots. For the residential, here's kind of a aerial 3D view of it. These are, I think, a very attractive townhome that they're proposing. You can see the open space area here, and then you can see the single-family lots. Just to give you, they've done a good job of breaking up the different facades. There's 5 different facades for the 9 buildings. Here's one example for the front facade. We went through these. They meet the planned residential requirements. Here's a second facade. There's the 3rd one, 4th, and then this fifth one. So these are all 6-unit buildings. And then you've got 1 4-unit building. The single family, they've provided some renderings for the single family as well. There's 4 different renderings here. So let me go over that motion really quick. So as we reviewed this, the Planning Commission recommended approval with the 5 conditions presented, that the applicant will continue to work with the city engineer to make all final corrections to the engineering documents and plat, complete warrant and post required assurance for all required public infrastructure improvements. Prior to plat recording, the applicant will update the final plat Mylar to include notarized signatures of owners' consent to dedication and obtain signatures of all entities indicated on the subdivision plat. Attached here too, the plans and plat will meet the constructed and be constructed as per specifications as found in the Linden City Development Manual and all items of the staff report. One other item to note in the Homeowners Association documents, this was one of the conditions of the City Council, that to the extent allowed by law, Elwood Holding LLC will include terms within the CC&Rs for development which will limit the number of residential units that can be rented out and be occupied for non-owner residents. So that number that we're bringing to you is a 20% cap on the number of rentals in the development, and so we felt good about that number that's been recommended by the developer. So with that, we'd be glad to answer any questions. Mr. Corbridge is here to can talk about the residential, and Ms. Johnson is here to talk about the commercial as well.
All right. Council, any questions? We could invite the applicants forward to answer any questions here. Oh, sorry, sir, it's the gentleman behind you that are applicants for this.
Just a minute, Ben.
Item number. Thank you, Ben. All right. All right. Anything that you would like to add to what Mr. Florence presented here tonight?
Yeah, I'm Wayne Corbridge. I'm with Sago Homes. We're doing the residential portion. And we're excited to be finally developing in Linden and excited about this project. We, our are targeting a empty nester buyer or a move-up buyer that actually wants to downsize from a bigger home. The homes, on the single-family homes, we have a couple of homes with master bedrooms on the main floor, and on two of the other to accommodate an empty nester that wants to downsize. Two of the other plans have the master bedrooms up. I could go through the square footages on the townhomes or anything like that you'd like to know. The other thing is we're very concerned, as all of us are, about water usage in the drought, and so we've designed a drought-tolerant, water-conserving landscape package we've minimized the turf that needs water. We have a lot of areas that have ground cover that are flagstone chip, that are very beautiful, but minimize the maintenance of the water. And so it'll be a low water usage project where I'm a certified green builder, and so everything we build with intent of, with a focus on energy efficiency. Our mantra as a company is healthy, green, smart, so we pay a lot of attention to the health aspect of our homes, the healthy air, healthy water environment inside, smart technology, and then green building materials, recycling, and energy efficiency. And so that's kind of my quick overview of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So is landscaping included in each one of these homes, or is that an option for the buyer?
Yeah, it's a good question. On the townhomes, the landscaping is all included and maintained by the homeowners association in the front and rear yards. All the townhomes will have a small rear yard. We find that about 80 or 90% of our buyers have dogs and pets, and so they want to have a small rear yard. On the single-family homes, we will design and install all of the front yard landscaping, and then we'll leave the backyard landscaping up to the homeowner of the single-family home. But the HOA will still maintain the front yard, and so we like that because the community will be maintained. All of the landscaping will be maintained by the homeowner association to make it look good through perpetuity. All the architecture is designed with the same theme, so we want the single family and the townhomes to look like they're part of a planned community.
And the central park area will be grass. It'll be a park area there
That
for them
part
to
will be grass,
Okay.
next to the pickleball court.
I've got that landscape plan if you want me to pull it up. I don't think I included it in your packet, but I can pull that up if you'd like to see it.
And just to clarify, tonight is just an action on the subdivision of the lots. So
Correct.
this is a little bit more preliminary information of what's to come. So thank you. Council, any questions for the applicants?
Just quickly, we had Mr. Corbridge and his engineers met with us this morning, and I think he has done a fantastic job of doing his homework. I'm sure working with Ms. Johnson, of going through and knowing in detail what the expectations were from the Planning Commission as well as the council. So I commend him for that. And then in addition, we had a very good open discussion about some of the engineering considerations that needed to take place. And again, everything that I've dealt with them, they're amenable. They want to make it a quality product. They want to do the best they can. And the price points for the townhomes and so forth, I think, are just about ideal for that target market that he's looking for, the empty nesters or someone that wants to basically downgrade. And it just looks like it's going to be a lovely development. But I can vouch that the staff has done a fantastic job of, for lack of a better term, holding their feet to the fire. And I was satisfied too. We discussed a few things that I knew the council would be looking for. And so I feel comfortable that those have been addressed, and we don't need to worry about something happening after the fact that we weren't approved of. So.
Okay. All right, council, any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Oh, from the council, sorry.
Oh.
Thank you.
I have concerns about the lands.
Council.
I had the privilege to be at the Planning Commission when it was discussed in detail, and I was very impressed with what was presented and also the dialogue between Wayne Corbridge and citizens concerned that live in the area of the cul-de-sac that was going to be made a thoroughfare, and the considerations on both parties to make that amenable to both. I was very impressed with that.
All right.
Nothing further.
Nothing further. All right. Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the major subdivision request for Elwood Holdings LLC located at 550 North State Street as presented.
All
I'll
right.
second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Vanchery and seconded by Councilmember Magleby. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The motion passes. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you further.
Very
as
good,
we-
thank you very much.
Okay. All right, next item. We have the farmer's market, item number 9. We're going to have a review in action, and I see the Carters here a minute ago. Oh, there they are. They just changed seats. Carters, thank you. We'll have our Recreation and Parks Director, Heath Bateman, will present to us some information about this exciting new opportunity we have for our community.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got the Sunset Farmers Market owners here, and I'm glad to have them. We've been working with the mayor, and I myself have been working with the Carters for, well, it's been several months, trying to get, and I've been trying to work a good way to bring a farmers market to Linden for several years, and this opportunity has come to us. So we've got an agreement with the Sunset Farmers Market to use the City Center Park west of the pavilion, July through October for the next 3 years to put on a Sunset Farmers Market. So we wanted them here in case you have any questions. I am in favor of this. There isn't a reservation fee. We're treating this like an additional recreation program for our residents and in partnership with us. So do you have any questions that we might be able to field?
The question that I had was, I noticed there wasn't a fee, and I assume that was mutually beneficial for both of us. We'll bring new people in, new tax dollars, if you will. And
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
talking with the
so-
Carters, they're very well experienced operators. They promote homemade or Utah-grown products only, so those micro businesses and agricultural as well as craft. And they operate some really successful farmers markets in some other communities. I'd love for you to share some of the other cities that you partner with. And one of the things that was really great is that they will bring some revenue generating activity as well as fresh produce, and they sponsor the SNAP program for those that need those items, and they don't ask the city for any financial contribution. There will be no staff time. They come, they set up, they clean up, and they go. It's a turnkey solution, and it will bring some really great things. They carry a $3 million liability insurance policy. So anything else you'd like to share, council, please go ahead and feel free to ask questions.
From my reading of these notes for this evening, it appears to be a Thursday only, every week, 5 to 9 p.m.
Yep, Thursday evenings.
Will there be food vendors there as well?
Yes,
Will they,
I'll be licensed.
okay, will they be food trucks, or will they, okay.
Hey, Brian, just making sure you were comfortable from a liability standpoint with the insurance coverage. You feel good about that?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep, we looked at that.
Electricity, I read that line 2 or 3 times, and
We just talked about that, it's a wording.
okay, I'm glad I'm not, walk me through how that'll work. Are they,
Yeah, so the farmers market themselves will use a little bit of electricity, probably pulled from the pavilion or maybe the power pole that we have, for some LED string lights for advertising and maybe a couple of other lamps. The vendors, on the other hand, will not be allowed to use the city's power, so the power usage is very negligible. They're responsible to be self-sufficient and self-contained. So it does, we were just out there talking about it because it kind of reads in a circle, but basically, we're giving them permission to tie into our electrical for those LED lights and a few other purposes, but not the vendors.
Great. From my standpoint, really excited to have this. This will be a lot of fun. It's a space that is high visibility but not utilized, and so we're not taking anything away from Parks and Rec. I think this is a home run.
From the perspective of Linden Days is on a Thursday, and we do have some arena events, and we're actually excited to have them there as another offering during Linden Days to have something else for the people that come to the park and participate in our other events.
Well, Carters, since we first started talking a couple of years ago, we're excited you're able to make room to join our community. Anything else you want to share?
We're pretty straightforward. It's not a big burden on the city. It's a benefit.
For sure.
Low income, all the local producers, and we've been running markets for,
This will be our
fifth year.
Would you
in
mind
Springville.
grabbing the microphone
Yeah.
for those that might be online? Could you share with us a little bit what you shared with me, the SNAP program and how that benefits?
So we run a
Folks.
program called the Double Up Food Bucks program, where you can run your SNAP EBT card with us. You get tokens to be spent with the vendors, and we reimburse those vendors. But with the Double Up Bucks program, we'll actually match an additional $30 that can be only spent on fresh fruits and produce. It benefits the local farmers because it frees up a ton of income that goes directly into the pockets of local farmers. There's no other option to be spent. And it also allows people to stretch that food stamp benefit a little bit further.
And I'd also love for you to share what you do for the youth entrepreneurs and how you sponsor their booths.
So we allow youth entrepreneurs to participate for no charge. We charge them a one-time $25 application fee every year, and then it's free for them to come set up. So, and it gives them great experience. And
Under 16?
It's under 17. Or
How
no,
many of
under
those
18.
do you
Yeah.
allow? I mean, if there were 100 entrepreneurial envisioned youth, how many do you limit that to?
If there's that much interest, we would love it. We'd probably make them set up a smaller booth area, but we've been doing Springville for this will be our 5th year, and we've had about 20 youth per market at the most. So we haven't quite had 100, but that would be great if we could.
Fantastic. Well, great. And I've been talking with Intermountain Hospital, and we have potentially some more things that they can do to sponsor some of the youth things as well. So we'll be talking some more. Anyway, council, any other questions or comments?
We ought to hook Carlos Chavez up with them. We have a Linden farm on Linden ground. Do you know him?
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be fun to have some Linden produce. That's on Linden city property.
We also have the Martell
Oh,
family
very
as
cool.
well. Yeah.
Participate in our markets as well.
Okay.
You don't do the one in Oregon, do you?
Yes,
run
we
the
run
one in
Orem in Springville, and then we actually run the booths at the Utah County Fair as well.
This might be a question for Brian. Can't catch him off guard there a little bit. Where this Linden City responsibility is to periodically advertise on social media pages, website, and newsletter. We okay on all of that? Not treating somebody differently?
We're definitely getting a service that's coming in here, and so that's a legitimate ask and give.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the farmers market agreement with Sunset Farmers Market as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Van. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, I think the community is going to love having this. Thank you so much, Carters. And Heath, thank you so much. And staff for reviewing the documents. All right. Okay, so moving forward. Now, our next item, number 10. If you're following the agenda, we're going to have a discussion item. There's no action being taken this evening. This is only for discussion regarding Horse Arena widening and improvements. We will also have our Mr. Heath Bateman go ahead and present this.
Great, thank you, Mayor. We have been talking about the arena for quite some time about what to do with it as it's getting run down, and and also different uses. We've talked kind of the sky's the limit on some items, and we've brought it back down. I have a committee that we haven't communicated for almost probably 9 months or a year, but they're waiting in the wings to make good suggestions, and I'm sure some of those individuals are behind me tonight. We have, with the mayor's help, we've been talking about what is conceivable and what's doable that will really uplift and help the horse arena and the city center park, as that's our showpiece for our city. And we've come up with a plan that we hope that the council will give us their full opinion on and support as we go forward. What we'd like to do, and we propose tonight, I've brought on the services of Ron Clegg. Ron, are you here?
Ron, yes, he's there in the back.
Okay, come up and sit with me, Ron, will you? You're gonna come up. So we would like to try to get, now again, as this is a discussion item, we would like to try to see if the council feels all right about backing the money from a grant. You remember the Creekside grant that we received for the Creekside Park improvements was, the total price of that was about $300,000, and so the city paid $150,000 and received $150,000 to upgrade that park. This is similar to this in that the grants are cyclic and they come around every year. So if you saw the staff report, what we'd like to do is we propose that we would widen the east end of the arena to approximately 125 feet. It would not quite be oval because we're into the hill a little bit further, but we would like to take out the old pipe casting rails, put in some new rails, and most importantly, we would like to rebuild the surface of the arena. Ron and I were able to finish a cost estimate today. I know that Adam mailed that off to you. So we would be looking at a 50-50 grant match for following through with some of these items to try to get that arena updated and upgraded. Mayor, do you have any comments as we've been working through this? I'd be interested to hear.
Yes, this arena is, I know a lot of people may say, pickleball, I don't play pickleball. Why does the city invest in pickleball courts? Or why do they do this playground or this other amenity? I don't use the pool, but this is for this particular facility. I feel like we need to frame this and looking at it as an amenity like we do any of our other amenities throughout the city that we want to maintain. And it is a legacy as part of our heritage in our community, part of our uniqueness. And this facility hasn't been really truly upgraded to where it needs to be for a couple decades now. And so hopefully what we're looking to do is something that is reasonable and not outside the realm of what we've done with other city properties and parks and amenities. And it's a really fantastic opportunity to have a grant match. And I'm sure Ron will share as well, this cycle we have a good chance of getting something, and we may not have that ability next year. And maybe, Ron, you could also share a little bit more answering the questions. What we do here, we may be able to have some flexibility if we were to be awarded as well. So anything you'd like to share?
Do I have questions? So we have looked at this arena in the past, and I've never been able to find any grant funding. But for whatever reason, this year, the state has this recreation restoration infrastructure grant that I was able to talk to them, and we were able to hopefully get some money out of that grant. They will award up to $150,000. That's not what we're asking for. I talked to them today. They said this is the least competitive. They manage like 4 different grants in different tiers and different dollar amounts. They said this is the least competitive grant. And last year, they awarded 11 out of the 12 applicants money. They didn't say if they awarded all the money. So the chances of Linden getting funding are pretty high. And so we looked at that. The other thing that's going on is construction prices keep going up, inflation keeps going up, and the longer we wait, the more it costs, and And if there's other grants we want to apply for from this group, it kind of gets in the way of
Right.
that and some of those kind of things.
And I spent a day at the Capitol with the outdoor recreation folks there at the state and Tamara, the director. So we have some goodwill right now potentially to tap into this, as Ron is saying. So whatever we do here, we want to do something that is, can set the stage for something that we don't have to do everything all at once, but we could wisely plan for upgrades and maintenance that could have a wide use as well of purposes, so.
Yeah, everything we're doing, if we needed to move it or extend it, can be moved. Nothing's really permanent. The most permanent thing are the fence posts to hold the panels up. And so, you know, we wanted to have some flexibility and some of that, so I think we're good here. We've had some people look at this that said, go look at the Wasatch County Equestrian Arena and the one down in Salina, and those are way out of our league, in my opinion. They're very nice, but they're very expensive. But this could be a really nice community horse arena for Linden.
All right, thank you, council. Any questions?
Maybe before you go to that point, Ron, could you go through the cost estimate that you sent
Yes,
over to
please.
us this afternoon, or Heath?
Sure. Ron put this together there is one thing on that grant. It's due the 18th. So of this month. Yeah, March. So we're pressed a little bit, but Ron is working away on that. But through this estimate, we've had Todd Carson, who's been a great help and supporter for us, give us his company's estimate on some of these land things. So it's not been competitively bid, but we trust Todd in his numbers for sure. But we're talking about a lot of money to redo the surfacing and redo it right so it can stay drier and it won't puddle and be usable, hopefully year-round. So mobilization and demo of some of the old things are certainly placed in there. We, as a city, can take care of moving the flagpole. That's in there. We could probably take care of some of the demo of the light poles. So this is just running a straight estimate. The existing fencing, demo on the existing fencing, and then the installing of new panels. We would like to use the top 6 inches of sand, move that off, and then from that level, do it right. We'll put in rock, gravel rock, drain rock, and then we'll put the fabric, permeable fabric. Then we'll put road base and some other items to help the water. We'd like to have it crowned so the water will run off instead of on. And those are a lot of the prices. The 15-inch drain rock is expensive. The filter fabric is what it is on that. But you'll see so most of that is dirt, is the dirt and the retaining of the dirt around that area. You'll notice in the bottom of that, when you saw that, the things that are not grant eligible that we'd like to work towards in, this year or whatever we needed to do on there, the sound system, the new lights. We'd like to have a new crow's nest and then the engineering and grant management. So we figure that park tax is a fund that is available. However, it's nearly exhausted in its reserve for unallocated money. It's not impact fee eligible because it's not new. It's doing an existing remodel. So the way we see it is it's probably going to be park tax and/or general fund funded in this case. Adam, did we have anything else on that we talked about?
We currently in our park tax have a fund balance of about 140 to 150,000. That's not already allocated to some other project, and so that would be carried forward into our next fiscal year. And so the match on this. So if the council wanted to move forward with this entire proposed project, 232,000. If the grant came through for what's being proposed and the state approved the full 94-ish thousand there, the remainder 138 would be required to be paid by the city. And so we have sufficient in that park tax fund balance, but that brings that fund balance almost to zero. And so that would be rebuilding that over time.
What's the time frame we'd have to act from when we got the bond or the grant?
You have 2 years to complete it. Heath and I were planning on starting like in the fall and getting it done as soon as you can, because I think there's some talk of applying for another grant next year out of the same group of funds, and it's always better to have that project completed than have one outstanding.
So we could potentially look at allocations for next year's budget, maybe not run that so dry. Okay.
And just as a reminder, other things that we've allocated towards the arena, this current fiscal year, you approved $30,000 for upgrades to the driveway and parking area, and $77,000 for a new tractor to help turn and work the dirt out there in the arena.
And that 30,000 would probably, we would set aside and not do the improvements to the driveway because we might be looking at a new. So if we do have that.
Spent that yet,
It
right?
has not been spent.
Just delayed that a little bit.
Right, just delay it, and that could be part of this package as well. So,
I have a question. Those that are here in the audience, by a show of hands, how many of you are horse owners? Great support here. I'm assuming you're here for this purpose, for this agenda item. Larry, I know you do, so.
I'd be interested in hearing, not everybody, but what makes you most excited about this? I mean, what's the bang for the buck for, when I was a kid, I used to ride horses, and it's been a very long time since I was a kid. So I'd be interested, just quickly, Mayor, is that okay?
absolutely.
I'd love to hear, again, what the bang for the buck.
So for me,
Can you state your name?
anybody, Justin Nicewander.
Thank you.
I live here, resident of Linden of 22 years. Big broody guy, I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but it's because it's passionate about this. Every one of my kids, when they're 6, they get a horse and teach them. Just the ethics of growing up and raising it and having it be your own horse. And when you turn 16, you sell it, get a car, move out, or whatever it is, right? My Olivia, usually here, first runner-up, she's at softball in high school tonight. She does horse riding lessons. And that girl, like, she even said, I played softball my whole life, I'm not gonna play this year because I got 42 girls that I give lessons to. Most of those girls come and work at my house to pay for their own lessons. So for her, to see her grow, and to see that, and to see her love for the kids, and to keep just the heritage of what it means to me being in Linden, to have horses, and to let the kids that don't have those opportunities to even be around a horse, or see a horse, or ride a horse, or feed a horse, or come give a horse a bath. I mean, it's priceless, right? I mean, to me, as a father, so.
Yeah, and that I appreciate, thank you, that was very well said. I guess maybe I should have my question a little bit different. What is it that it's going to allow you to do that you're not already doing? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Just an example, a week ago, we ride all through the winter, so it doesn't matter what time of year. I rode over to the arena, and I could ride on a sliver of it because of moisture.
The drainage
So,
issues.
Yeah, so the issue of being able to keep it in a state, regardless of the weather, where we can ride, we don't, we ride in the snow, it doesn't matter. So the idea that we can have a better surface is positive.
Okay, thank you.
And then as well along those lines, during the summertime, when that dirt is getting packed down and, obviously you water it, you want to keep the dust out of your horse's lungs. It hardens up real good. That's really hard on a horse's hooves. That
Oh, real
can be
bad,
something That
yeah.
causes them to go lame. So personally, I know my mare that I used to rodeo on for Linden this year, she has some issues with those, and it can be hard to keep a horse sound on that really hard dirt.
Okay, good, I appreciate that, those are all good.
We have another comment here.
I've been hauling my horse over to Highland, to Spanish Fort, to Payson. Those are the other arenas you can ride in the winter. They're full, they're very busy, but ours is even when it's dried out a little bit, it's hard to ride in the winter. There's not a facility in Orem. There's not one in Pleasant Grove, Highland, Alpine. arenas you can just come ride. So we would appreciate having it. We would love having softer dirt that doesn't clump up without rocks. Some things around the fencing are very spooky to young horses, so what you can do to help with that would be greatly appreciated as well.
Good. That gives me a better perspective at least.
And our other rodeo royalty, yes.
I would be really excited for having it, like Cece said, nicer dirt. I live right on top of the rodeo arena, and I definitely go to other arenas just when the dirt is amazing at the rodeo arena, so I'd really be excited for that.
Thank you. Had a comment here, Terry?
One thing I think is really neat too is you've already put in trails all through Linden for horses, bikes, whatever. My kids like to take the horses through the tunnel because they can actually get there. But during the winter, they can't do that because of the arenas, the water and everything that's there. If it's fixed properly, we can actually use the trails that are set up for that we've already spent the money on, so why not have the arena that you set up the trails for anyway, so we can actually use it. So I think it's really neat to get a new surface so we can use it all year.
All good points.
Heath, I have a question for you. Oh, please.
Okay.
Diane.
I'm not a horse person, my daughter is, and I get sensitive too. We have brought her a lot of comfort, a lot of building up, as a personality, especially during COVID. She had a chance to go and ride, and she had a chance to go clean out stables and grow, and the horses would give her courage and healing as well, plus, okay, as a businesswoman, it will also bring revenue to Linden and also bring other people into Linden, and also will put us on the map at the same time. And yes, I will start to take riding lessons, I promise.
Can we get that in writing?
Heath, question. How much does it cost to construct pickleball courts in our city?
The last pickleball courts, let's see. Let me put my glasses back on. I brought my list of amenities that we've had. The last pickleball courts at Pheasant Brook cost $75,000.
That's for 2 courts or 4?
That's 2 courts.
2 courts.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, when we,
Our,
To the question, what would it allow us to do? I think it allows you to actually have a place that you can work a horse year-round. Right now, we don't have one in Linden. We've got trails, and I can give you a dissertation on how we've ruined the trails for horses. We put a slick surface on them. They can't even stand up on it. You need to put a rougher surface on the trails. Now back to this. I think it would be a good thing to have, and I think people would use it, but I do have some concerns. First off, it needs to be big enough that it's functional. Don't try and fit it on a postage stamp. Make it big enough that people can use it. And then, of course, we need to understand, how is it financed? Will it be free to use? What are you thinking in terms of use? I think we all would be interested in understanding what your idea would be. And I guess the bottom line question would be, where did the idea come from?
I think from our horse people, or good people that love their horses. Yeah, I think you're right, Mr. Ellerson, but, you know, this is something obviously we're not going to decide tonight, because I'm hearing things that I haven't heard before, and maybe some of the other council members are too. For example, about the condition of the trails for horses. Again, that's certainly a valid concern, but I think it's something that, for me, we're going to need to kind of soak it in a little bit and maybe get a little more exhaustive list of, you know, pros versus cons.
and I think to answer your question, Larry, you know, this is a discussion item I'm hoping the council can ask questions. We did have a citizen-led committee that worked with Heath and spoke to about some of the things that they would like to see within the community for this amenity. At this point, we're just looking to see if the council feels like we want to go for this grant. We're not able to do everything all at once necessarily that we might want to envision, but within reason, if we were to obtain a sizable grant, would we be able to have the support to match those funds? And, you know, maybe some of these improvements will, over time, happen in stages. But at least for stage one, I think what's being proposed here is to create a surface that is usable, some widening potential. Again, we're not necessarily, from what Ron discussed with the committee, we don't have to necessarily put it as it's shown here on the screen. There would be some flexibility with how those improvements were put on the ground, so.
That is the existing, widened to about 125 feet on the southeast side. It'll be 245 by 125, almost 125. Right now, at that end, the existing is under 100 feet.
Is there a standard? Is there something that would be ideal?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this prospect.
Yeah, me too.
But I want to
Just-
make sure that we don't do something early on that limits us later, that it is big enough that we're able to improve and increase the capacity as time goes on.
Most of the arenas that I've been associated with are 300 by 150. I think that's optimal. I'll let you horse people nod and go like this. Yeah, okay. We've had an interesting conversation. We talked about this a couple of years ago about the possibility of lengthening it as well from 245 to 300. And then it's funny because when I hired Ron said, what we need to do is move the arena to the center of the park and then have all this extra time as baseball field. And I said, yeah, I thought about that. And then this week, 2 or 3 other consultants helping us had said the same thing. But what we're thinking about tonight is backing of the grant, because everything we use here, if ever we found a different piece of property, or if ever we decided to move it and not put it on a stamp, as Larry has said, can be reused. So we're not dumping a bunch of money into a situation where we should have done something different. One other thing with this, council, that I'm sure you're considering, but from my department's perspective, I will take half the blame for not being able to have a great surface. The reason is because I need support in maintaining it. It's been somewhat dilapidated because I've got Wade and Jake, and if you want to know, I spend a portion of my time in the summer, 2 or 3 times a week working that dirt. And the piece of equipment that you did approve, we're going to try to see if that will help us. We do have an old tractor and a harrow, but really what will really help this is if we can consider the maintenance of it as well. If we need to fix it, if we need to add some dirt every 5 years or whatever as the dirt gets moved, that we'll have that support as well.
So Van, I just wanted to say, I think ideally, if the baseball fields weren't an issue, most people we've talked to said, put it there and use this area for parking. Because if you have bigger rodeo events or whatever, you need to be able to load and unload livestock and all that stuff, and this just is not big enough. But I haven't heard anybody want to get rid of ball fields, so this is kind of the best of what we can do right now, I guess.
So you're suggesting that if we get an ideal size 300 by 150, that would allow us to have events there, that other people would come into the city, would.
Good. Yeah, that won't fit here, just so you know. 300 by 150 won't fit here.
Right.
We are getting this as wide as we possibly can because you got major utilities on that south side.
Could even offset some of the cost by making the equestrian facility free to Linden residents, but then if you're not a Linden resident, there would be some kind of an annual fee. For example, we always go and trailer our horses up to Highland, right? And it's $150 a year to, have access to that facility.
It sounds like most of the people here haul anyway, and they're buying a pass there. They might as well be buying a pass here in Linden, too.
Springville has a similar arena this size, and it's $100 for their facility use, but they don't have it open in the winter time, from my understanding.
For residents and non-residents, same.
I don't know the answer to that. Mike, do you know?
One of the things that
Same
the
price?
committee was pretty certain that they would like to see this stay an open, no-charge writing facility certainly for Linden residents as well. And I don't know how we would man it and
Yeah, the policing of it might be a challenge, but, you know, I've had a lot of success in the past on the honor system. I mean, maybe not everybody is buying a pass, but I do know this about the cowboys and the cowgirls is, generally speaking, I trust them. They're honest people. They believe in that. They believe in their amenities need to be taken care of, and they police a lot of that themselves. So policing a pass for a non-resident might be tough, but maybe we would get a good enough response that we wouldn't have to police it really hard.
I like that idea. What about a roof? I know that was one of the big findings that came out of the committee. With what we're doing here, does that leave potential for eventually roofing that facility or no?
Ron and I talked about that a little bit today. It's tight quarters on the postage stamp, to coin a phrase. We have not had anything engineered. We would have to make some changes and probably come further south to put footings and foundation on, footings and pylons on the north side. It's debatable whether or not it's a roof spanning 150 feet would fit in that spot. I would think that the roof would probably the eaves would probably end up covering the road on the north side. So I don't know. I haven't had it engineered or looked at, but we are considering that, thinking about that for a 5, 10, 15-year plan, whatever, however it turns out.
It would be pretty tough to cover this right here. Most of those covered arenas these guys will know better than me, but in Heber and Salina and stuff are out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
With a lot of open space, and so it's just not an issue. But here, we're so constricted. Now back, if you got it down by the ball fields, that's a different story.
Sure. I think the only thing I'd like to add is I love that this many people showed up. Little bit of country is still our motto here in Linden, and we are squished by two cities who want to grow as fast as possible. 3 cities, really, that want to grow as fast as possible. I love that you're still here, and when we move forward with this, and I say when, you guys got to promise no more moving to Nephi, no more moving to Mona. We're staying here in Linden because we need you guys, and I love this. This has been a staple. I grew up with horses, grew up riding in the arena, and so appreciate you all coming out here. You know, from my standpoint, I'm certainly open to us looking at matching this, and I think we should look at that as well as potentially other items.
I see a couple more comments. Larry?
Well, geesh, Mona. Some of us grew up there.
Apparently you haven't been there lately. No.
Comment. The existing arena is my example of a postage stamp. It's tight to fit it in there. We have a larger area. Let me ask the question of you who would use it. How many would trailer your horses to the arena as opposed to ride them?
This one here? Already do, it's too slippery.
If you're very far away, you're gonna trailer, is that correct?
It's too slippery to ride. Can't ride on trail, I already trailer. People
Yeah.
laugh at me. 'Cause I
And
don't-
so you need to have adequate parking for the trailers. But the other side of it is, the city owns a pretty good piece of property west of here. Don't ignore it.
All right.
It could be used, and you would have plenty of room to build a good, decent arena. You know where I'm talking about.
I do. We do. Thank you. The other option too is moving this further west in the park as well. So that's something that could be taken into consideration. I saw one more hand there behind you.
Is the March 18th deadline for the grant, is it like a use it or lose it type situation when they, you know, if they're going to apply for the money, does that have to be, you know, does the actual plan have to go in at that time for them to be able to get the state money?
The grant,
So is that a disadvantage of waiting? Will they that possibility of the grant matching?
The grant itself is cyclic. It comes around every year. However, and maybe I should let Ron mention that, you've been in, why don't you mention what you've talked with the grant people about in the future?
Yeah, we've talked about this for a couple of years now, I think, trying to get money for this, and it's always kind of been shut down. We don't do that, is what they say. But for some reason this year, they're kind of open to it. The second we mentioned this, and Mayor was up talking to one of the managers, they went out and looked at Lindon's master plan to see how important this arena was. And once they saw it on the master plan for Linden, I think that was kind of a game changer for them because it is part of our community. And so I think they've become more receptive to that. Yeah, that March 18th deadline is looming. And if we get money and back out of it because we don't want to move forward, that just kind of looks bad. We've done that on some other stuff, and I don't want to get a reputation of Linden applies, but they don't ever spend the money, so.
If I understood you correctly, though, in answer to her question, you said we had 2 years?
Yeah, we have 2 years to build
2 years
it.
once we get the grant to spend the money.
We might have to do some talking to them if we're gonna move that very far. Because they wanna make sure you've cleared the environmental stuff and some other things. We can move it a few feet, but if we move it a few hundred feet, that might be a game changer.
Is this grant coming from the outdoor recreation?
It is. So one of the other things is could we, well, it's been mentioned, but to be clear, could we apply for this next year after some time? And we could, but we don't get the same feeling that they're going to fund it in the future. And as some of those grants come up, so we're trying to strike while the iron's hot. And that's why what we proposed here can be reused, even the soil and the dirt. The groundwork could not. So let's say we found a different piece of property or just went further into that park, we would lose all that money for mobilization and the groundwork itself. But the materials could be used. But it like Larry said, it's pretty tight quarters in there, and we're trying to do the best with what we've got in that situation.
Mayor, if I could, I just want to make sure, I want to review what's being included as part of this grant and make sure everybody's on the same page.
Absolutely, thank you.
So for the $283,000, that would include leaving this in the general location it already is, widening this southeast corner, so it's approximately 125 feet across in all areas, putting in new fencing around the entire perimeter, new lights, new crow's nest, but leaving the existing livestock pens in place.
Yes, pens in place.
So no change on the livestock pens?
For now.
And then new soil and crowning it, and that's about it. Okay.
Is the
Water
grant for
management in
improvements to the existing arena, or is it for an enclosed arena?
No, it would not be for an enclosed arena.
Which?
An enclosed, existing.
Is to improve the existing. It
So,
ought to be improved and it ought to be kept as well as the new one.
all right.
If you 10-inch this good arena sanding, you won't have to do all this work. All this 15 inches of arena sand. You have to work keeps you won't. These not the rocks, no dirt in the mud. I think just if you just use this, just talk about go 10-inch or so, and you can buy arena sand. It's a little more expensive, but it eliminates all this other work.
Thank you, Boyd. Ron, so to clarify, we could potentially have some flexibility if we were awarded what we're looking for tonight is just a discussion of, from the, here with the council, if the council would like to direct that we go ahead and apply for the grant and see if we can get the funds awarded, and then if we were awarded the funds, then we would have some flexibility in exactly how we do these improvements. There could be some flexibility somewhat in where it's going. This is what your first draft at it. Is that correct? Okay.
I'm sorry, I got so much to say. What's the amount of the grant and what's the match?
The amount, go ahead, Ron. The amount of the grant eligible, and we're not asking for that much. Oh, I'm sorry, I said go ahead and then I talked. Go ahead.
You go right.
The amount that is eligible is up to 150,000.
Correct.
And we're only asking for 95 on this.
Why? Yeah, good question. How come?
Well, we're trying to be frugal, and we don't really know the council's feeling about going full on for what's,
To
the
move it
flavor.
or, yeah.
To get a full matching $300,000. So we're kind of poking along.
Forgive me, but that's a good question that comes to mind. What else can we do? 150.
50/50.
Okay, let's say we add another.
Some improvements are not eligible for the grant. So in the some of those would not be eligible for grant funds, some of the improvements.
Well, let's just say that they give us another 55,000. We match it with 55,000. What would that get us in addition that we won't be getting now? What would that do for us?
Would that allow it to potentially go a little more west?
They've told us they will only participate in widening the arena and redoing the surface. So things like a sound system or lighting, or they're not gonna help pay for that. So you could spend more money out there, but it'll be city money, because I think we've gotten what they'll help pay for.
What about moving it further in and maybe one of the ball fields being able to give to this space and switch the parking to the east? Is that something that would be within the scope of this grant, or?
I don't know.
Probably too late.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
substantial change to
Yeah.
decide in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
okay,
Yeah.
all right. Kim? Oh, sorry.
If they're gonna invest this much money, and Linden is growing every day with more and more people, and it's put on a postage stamp, the parking is so tight down there now with the trailer, you can't get in and out. If you've got 3 of you in there, it is a nightmare. So if we're gonna dump money into it, I'm troubled by it that it's not big enough, it's a postage stamp. Is it gonna be what we want it to be when it's, or is it gonna be another problem because we still can't use it? I just hate to see it, money put into something and then it's not what we need either, but.
All right, over here.
Can you use some of that money to improve the trails?
The city money or the grant money?
Grant money.
The grant money is not usable. They have their own trails grant that we could go after to do
Another
that,
year.
but this would be specifically for this. The city money is whatever the council deems to be spent on.
And none of this money is going toward the parking lot, correct? That's city money.
Correct.
Which we allotted 30,000 this last budget that ends June 30th for that. It hasn't been done yet, but it would essentially move forward.
But I think we could, if we could take that one ball field, we could make the parking quite a bit bigger down there. Even leave the arena here, we could make the parking substantial, so it's not such an issue. But without taking a ball field, I think our hands are tied.
All right. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Have you thought about private donations?
We would always welcome private donations, certainly.
I'm telling you, there might be enough passion in here, and there's a little bit of money, and then there might be some interest in it. Especially if they thought it was going away.
You could sell naming rights.
We're not considering the arena going away. This would be only improving it. All right, we'll take a couple more, and then we need to move on.
I like the idea that Larry mentions, that other property that you have up there. If you're talking about the grant and the expense and stuff, would it be cheaper to just look at that and maybe have the arena up on that block up there where it's bigger? Because it will save a lot of money, I think, where you don't have to move it and tear it down and stuff to start on a new piece of property, if that would work.
What are we talking about, Larry?
Talking about
The marina one down by the
Geneva
marina.
Resort Park area.
About two arenas, keeping this one and then doing another one down there. Did I hear that correctly?
You could use that for something else, but just. You could,
As a possibility.
but the other option is, look at the other arenas that exist. What do they have? They have an indoor and an outdoor.
All right. Well, okay, one more comment here and then we need to.
Just from somebody that lives there day in and day out, I look out and I see the arena. I mean, I live at the top of the hill and look down, and to be honest with you, we love it. We love seeing people come and ride their horses, and we're just in the window, just admiring everybody's horses. And so honestly, from a neighbor that lives right there, I would like to keep the arena where it's at, and then maybe look at putting a bigger parking lot where one of the baseball diamonds is. And then it feels like that would be a less expensive proposition too. I would much prefer to look at beautiful horses than trucks and trailers, so that's just my personal.
If they enclose it though, you won't be able to see the horses.
Okay.
That's okay, I'll still go
All
to the
right.
backyard and look.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much. All right. So again, this is just a discussion item. And we're just trying to get a feel from the council if they'd like for staff and Ron to proceed with applying for the grant this cycle for the reasons that they stated, that they feel that the temperature would be better than most to go after these funds and use them with our existing arena and making those improvements that are long overdue. So council, if you could kind of give your
No,
feedback.
it's no decision. I would say
Yeah.
let's apply for the grant.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Do we need a motion to that effect?
No.
Oh, yeah, we're not in the
All
public.
right. So Ron, anything else you need to meet the
Yeah,
deadline?
there is
and see-
something. I need some letters of support, not like 100, but I'm gonna need 5 or 6. And so the mayor.
From the community members,
Yeah.
yes, we can
And
reach out to
So the
some.
mayor said she would help me get those letters, so some of you may be getting recruited. So it's exciting. We aren't horse people, we live a little ways up, but my wife and I drive by there all the time and we see people down there and we love it. We just think it's a really nice amenity for Linden.
So those letters of support fast, quickly, because they need to go to the application, so.
Who do they send it to?
They send it to, you're gonna work that out? Okay. So we, not gonna help us to have 50 of them, but certainly 6 or 8 from vested individuals will really help us.
All right, very good. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you all. Okay, so we will move forward then to item number 11, review and action, adoption of the APWA mutual aid agreement. Y'all don't want to stay?
This is riveting discussion coming up.
Thank you. And our junior rodeo queens, really quickly, Cece, our junior rodeo queen, you want to tell us really quick, we're having your April.
Obviously, first rodeo royalty I've been part of.
Yes, great. Thank you for coming out tonight, ladies.
Of course, thank you for having us.
Okay, we'll have our new.
Representing Linden.
Oh, yeah.
Not the end all.
You coming tomorrow?
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's move forward. Item number 11. Here, the council will review and consider adoption of the APWA mutual aid agreement. If you all could please exit out to the foyer, we'd appreciate it, so we may continue on with the meeting. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
So this item is the Public Works departments for various cities around the state. Multiple entities have entered into an agreement that just kind of outlines in an emergency, if we're sharing facilities or uses, a dump truck or sandbags or equipment, staff time, if we're helping each other. It basically just lays out terms and conditions and makes it clear as far as liability and things of that nature. So Kelly's coordinated with some of these other cities, and this is an agreement that was actually drafted several years ago, and we're catching up to it and recommending we jump in and be part of this team. So is that sufficient, Kelly? Okay.
The other cities, as we all come together, Utahns are good at that, and I think this just makes it official. I'm very comfortable with it.
I'm very pleased with this myself.
All good things.
Maximize resources.
In those emergency times, I'll move to approve the adoption of the APWA Mutual Aid Agreement as presented.
Second. Oops, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Who's taking it? Are we going to arm wrestle?
No,
Okay, all
no,
right.
Van's got it.
Okay, Van. All right, motion by Jake, seconded by Van. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, item number 12. Scooting along here, review and action, resolution number 2022-4-R. This is the adoption of the updated, which was incredibly an amazing effort by you, Kelly, that document. So thank you. We're looking forward to having you present your emergency operation plan.
Great. So I know that you have a long council meeting. I'm going to give you the high-level view of kind of why there were so many substantial changes this year. And then if you have any questions or feedback for me, I'm very open to that. So if you'll recall, there's been a few things going on over the last couple of years. And in the emergency management realm, that has particularly pushed the state to make some changes. Last year in the emergency operations plan, there was an appendix that had House Bill 96 in it. House Bill 96 was a new law, it's an amendment to the Emergency Management Act. And within it, they require every city to have an emergency manager, whether that's appointed and is a secondary position to somebody who's actually already doing something, or to have a separate hire for an emergency manager. They require an emergency management succession plan. They require an emergency operations plan, and they require a communications plan. There's not much teeth behind that bill at the moment, but it has certainly started a huge flurry of activity statewide. The reason that they put this bill forth is because they were finding that there were big gaps in communication between the state and cities. So sometimes they had resources for free that they could get to cities, and they didn't know who to talk to. So with that, it has meant that cities all through the state and in Utah County have had the opportunity, honestly, to pull out our emergency operations plan, start talking to each other about what's within them, trying to figure out what the gaps are, what are we missing, what can we do better. And I felt like that was a really good opportunity for us as well in Linden to take what we already had, really do a very thorough review, and add and amend as necessary, which is why there are so many substantial changes. At the exact same time that the state was doing that, FEMA actually came out with a new comprehensive planning guide to help to be able to kind of lead and say, here are some of the things that we expect to be an emergency operations plan. Again, the emergency operations plan is really it's a living document, so it's guidelines to help in some sort of large situation or something that is very unusual in our response mechanism. So for this particular plan, I was able to talk to a lot of different cities. I asked them to please send me all of their emergency operations plans. I read every emergency operation plan I could, worked with a comprehensive planning guide, tried to also work a little bit more comprehensively within our city departments to make sure that we were making the plan specific to Linden. I think our previous EOP was very good at sort of generalized concepts, and I tried to extrapolate from that and make sure that we had something that was quite specific to Linden and Linden's needs, so that we can look at, one, what are we doing really well, and two, what do we need to improve? Because we will use this plan to promote exercises and drills to be able to then say, okay, great, we've got these lessons learned. How does it compare against what we've planned, and what do we need to change? That's probably it for me in terms of what I created, and then if you have any questions or feedback for me, I'm certainly open to that.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's an improvement in some ways over what we had before, and it incorporates either mandates that have been received recently or that, in your opinion, will likely be received lately?
I think that there will be some in the future. I mean, there's been a lot of questions about, well, what does House Bill 96 mean? Is there any money behind it? There's not. Is there any teeth behind making sure that it happens? There's not, but there probably will be in the future. And so between making sure that we're incorporating FEMA best practices and also meeting state requirements, it opens us to the opportunity to make sure we're in the best position to receive funding if it becomes available, and also to be sure that we are actually meeting state statutes.
Very good, thank you. All right, this is an action item, so council.
I move to approve, oh, we have more discussion? I'm sorry, Mayor.
Any other comments or questions for Kelly? All right, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay.
Do we want to close the public hearing?
We
I don't think it's
we didn't
public
have a
hearing.
public hearing just yet.
We didn't open one.
Oh, I went down one too far,
Oh,
sorry.
yes.
Yeah. But if it'll make you feel better? No. All right, I move to approve resolution number 2022-4-R, adopting the updated Emergency Operation Plan, or EOP, as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Vanchery,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Magalby. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it
Thanks
passes
very much.
unanimously, and much thanks from all of us, Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
You're
It was fun
amazing.
listening to this last item, actually, about the horse arena, because one of the things that we changed in this is trying to come up with better animal plans, and I think what you're talking about with the arena would actually help with that.
Very cool.
All right. Now, item number 13, this is a public hearing, so.
Make a motion to open a public hearing.
All right.
Second.
Okay, motioned by Van, seconded by Jake. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. This is to amend the Linden City Standard Land Use Table. I will invite our ever so talented Mr. Mike Florence to come and, oh, sorry, our ever talented, Mary Barnes. We are so excited. She's taking the chair tonight. All right.
All right, so this ordinance amendment, I just want to kind of explain how it came to our attention. So Taralyn, who is here across the room, and Bill Fairbanks, they came to me and Mike a few weeks ago talking about the daycare capacity for commercial daycares. Taralyn runs a commercial daycare. If you saw in your staff report, there's a letter from her kind of explaining her stance on this daycare capacity requirements. So up until now, the capacity requirement has been up to 16 kids for residential and commercial daycares. The Utah State the Utah State Licensing Agency have recently come through with some proposed changes to allow more. I mean, there's so much need for daycare in our society with 2 working parents and that kind of thing. And Taralyn kind of goes through that in her letter as well. But having this capacity, while it doesn't follow state requirements and it doesn't allow for commercial daycares like Taralyn's to kind of pencil out when you have you're only allowed to have 16 children. And so to increase that capacity will help her better serve Linden, and then also it will help our community. It will help her to support our community as well. And also, I wanted to say that, I say this in the staff report, but this doesn't mean that, this doesn't mean that every commercial daycare can have up to 100 kids in a space or something like that. They still have capacity requirements, but it's going to be through the state capacity requirements. We're not going to be governing that anymore. And then moving on to residential, I kind of mentioned this capacity, taking it out of this capacity requirement isn't so much affecting the residential. I mean, with the Planning Commission, we had some questions about traffic and how that taking away a capacity requirement would affect traffic, but as mentioned in your staff report, they will still be held under the home occupation ordinance, which gets home occupations to occupy not more than 500 square feet or 25% of the total floor space. Therefore, it will just stay the same. It's not going to increase traffic in areas. It's going to just stay the same. But yeah, do you have any questions for me or Carolyn or anything?
I don't have any questions. I appreciate this request. I think, Mary, you're not new anymore, but I think in the planning department, we're always looking for common sense, reasonable, rational. I think Bill and I talked high level about this a while back, and it makes sense. Let's look for those maybe ordinances that have unintended consequences, that we're not wanting to penalize business owners or small business owners specifically. So anyways, that's my thought. So good job. Keep up the good work.
And our counsel, Brian Haas, can probably speak to, this is actually, we're falling under the purview of what now is current with the state as well.
Right.
So.
And then this session, the legislature just passed some bill specifically addressing childcare and establishing what those rules and parameters are. And so we are actually, under that new statute, we don't require it, but we wouldn't be able to go in and require specific child education training certificates or anything like that. The state is just really saying, this is our arena, municipalities, and so this fits with that change as well.
All right. And Fairbanks, Mr. and Mrs. Fairbanks, do you have anything that you would like to add to this?
He's
All
the
right.
one that needs to add.
He's the landlord.
I partially own the building, she owns the other half of the building, and the bank owns the other half.
Okay, very good. All right.
So for me, my biggest thing is we need.
May I ask you to come approach here and state your name, just so we can keep things straight for the public in our recording of this? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Terrell Sorensen, and I am the owner of Go Beyond Kids, which is also a partner with Beyond Sports Taekwondo, which has been there for 20 years. And we are located in the plaza, the Linden City Plaza. I've been there for 20 years, but we've needed good places for families and for children to be able to grow. And we have, when we purchased the part of the property, we opened up an after-school program was the initial intent, because with daycare, we have a lot of kids who want to be able to do Taekwondo and be able to have extracurricular activities, but we're restricted by the families who have two family parents working. So as we opened that piece up, we went and checked with Mike and the Planning Commission to figure out what our legal rules were. But because they were more than 3 hours a day, we were limited to 16 students. And our space by law would give us a capacity of 53. Or if we expanded into the building. So anyhow, as we've started to develop, we just kept under the numbers and stayed under the 16, but we're to the point where we need more space and we need to be able to have more numbers to be able to provide for the families that need help. There's not one other daycare in Linden City because of that reason. And so we're not servicing those families who have those needs at this time.
All right, thank you. All right, this is a public hearing. So if there's anyone here in attendance that has any comments, we'll take those now. All right. Seeing none, I'll
motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, motioned by Jake, seconded by Van. All in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Very good. All right, so moving forward then on item number 14. Sorry. We have to, okay, we need a motion now to amend the standard land use table.
I'll make that motion to approve ordinance number 2022-3-0 to amend the Linden City Land Use Table to remove city or restrictions on daycare capacity as presented with no changes.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Motioned by Darrell, seconded by Mike Vancheri. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
very much. Thank you for coming this evening. All right, now we will have the tag team continue. Here we go. Item number 14, we need to continued public hearing. I suppose we did not need to close the public hearings. We need to open it again.
Motion
so
to open that public hearing?
All right. Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jake, seconded by Van. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll turn it over to you now, Mike.
All right, thank you. We looked at this ordinance last meeting where this adjusts the setback requirements and height requirements in our commercial general zone. Specifically, we looked at, last time the council gave me feedback on, let's go back and look at any unintended consequences on the existing single-family homes. So we put together, we went through and found, I think there's 13 single-family homes along State Street. So we provided what the setbacks are currently from each home. The minimum setback right now is 10 feet from a home. There's a couple that have garages right up next to the property line, but for the most part, there's 2 with 10-foot setbacks. The others all have a lot larger setbacks than that. So under this ordinance, the rear yard setback would actually be greater than what's required right now. The side yard setback would be less. You'd have a 20-foot setback. So in all of the examples that in these homes here, that with that minimum, the home with the least setback has 10. So you'd have a 30-foot setback with a 20-foot home or 20-foot commercial building. Anything above 20 feet has an additional 1 foot of setback up to 30, and then 2 additional feet of setback for that side yard setback. So just wanted to see if this answered some of your questions, if there was any unintended consequences that hopefully that would be mitigated by this. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Mike, did this come about because of the beans and brew? Or
No, this couple issues that came about by the Fizz development that's going to go in across the street. They had a much better site plan if they could have had a less setback. They could have ran their drive-through on that
yeah, that's what I
side.
mean. Originally, it looped around. It was very awkward.
Yeah.
This just reduced the setback, but it also gave them more efficient.
And then also, we had a couple residents reach out to us. Let's see, did I put a picture in here? This building here off of Lakeview, we had a couple residents say how much they really liked this setback. This is I think it's 80-foot setback, if I remember right. There's some existing single-family homes here. They really liked this setback of height to setback ratio, and that's kind of what we accomplish with a taller building with this ordinance. So.
All right. Any other questions for staff, council? This was a continued item, so hopefully we all had an opportunity to kind of study it a little bit more. Any other questions for staff before I open it to public comment?
Van, how you feeling about it? I know you had some concerns earlier.
Yeah, I just always like open space, don't like congestion and pushing things too close together is the only thing I'm trying to avoid in that. Again, we talked about the drive-through that works much better, flows smoother with the current verbiage here. And we were just, in my mind, wanted to make sure this doesn't mess up something else that we just didn't want to have happen later.
So Mike, it sounds like what you were hoping to accomplish with this was actually increase some setbacks if the scale of the building is taller, or maintain or increase.
Yeah.
And it just allows, if it's a like-sized structure, it could come a little bit closer.
That's correct. So,
Okay.
Most of these single-family homes on State are single-story, about 20 to 24 feet in height, and so that's kind of where we set that 20-foot height requirement, and then it has to increase in height from there. So same scalability.
All right, very good. Well, this is a public hearing, so if there's any other questions or comments from the public? All right.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So with our business where we're at, we have residential homes right behind us, and there's a 40-foot setback. Is that correct, Mike? Yes. And so would that change any of that, any of those restrictions on that?
Where yours is the rear yard setback,
Uh-huh.
you would still have to meet that 40-foot setback requirement. But your side yard, it may change your side yard setback.
Okay, what would that, what do you mean, how would that?
So you could do a 20-foot setback on the side yard instead of well, I can't remember what's in your on your side yard.
I have both residential to the side and business. It's about split half and half.
I'd have to look at that real quick.
Annalia Walker has, we connect with her on the side, and then there's a business on the side there.
Yeah, so you've got this 40-foot setback here that would have to maintain, and then I think this is probably a 20-foot setback, which would have to be maintained as well.
All right, seeing no other public comment, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move to do that.
All right, thank you. Motioned by Councilmember Vanchery,
Second.
seconded by Van Broderick. All in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving forward. Any more comments or discussion regarding this proposed ordinance amendment?
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve Ordinance Amendment 2022-2-0 as presented.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Magleby. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it carries.
Appreciate that process too, looking in, making sure we're not missing any unintended consequences. Love the way that went down. I don't think we should ever be worried about continuing to make sure we're not missing something. But great research as well. I felt really comfortable after seeing that we weren't missing anything.
Yeah, it'd be different if we had homes right on the property line that maybe we'd need to be concerned with. But I think with the wall, the landscaping that's now going to be required, that's going to help as well.
All right, very good. All right, we will keep Mike in the hot seat here for item number 15. This is just a discussion item, planned residential development overlay updates.
Yeah.
This is...
So we've made it through 2 recent planned residential development overlay projects. The council's actually approved 3. There was one over by the Merit Academy. That's how this ordinance was originally developed, was for that townhome project. Let me pull that up really quick. So the planned residential development overlay was an existing ordinance that was developed about 4 years ago. Let's see, where's Merit Academy? Right here, or Mazer Academy, sorry. It was developed for these townhomes right here. It originally allowed for townhomes in commercial properties less than 1 acre. So then when the Linden nursery developers started to talk to us and the Norton property, we amended that ordinance to allow for a second option, which was projects over 1 acre that brought in a commercial use or kept a commercial use as part of that project. And so that's just kind of some history on where this ordinance came from, where it originally was developed. So I put together some, I know there's been some heartache over this ordinance as we've went through it, as we have had some public comment. We've seen some issues maybe we didn't like with parking, maybe transitions with the density, the overall density. And so just some of the ideas that I wanted to discuss is, you know, there's some things we could do to tie it to just these three properties. You know, if we, like our sensitive area district, we've put in maps saying where it applies in these situations, in these parts of the city. That's something we could look at as saying it only, the planned residential development only applies to these three properties. We can look at the housing transition, so that the density maybe transitions better to the existing single family, or maybe where there's single family detached has to butt up against existing, you know, detached single family has to butt up against existing or detached single family, so you don't have townhomes next to existing homes. We can remove the parking requirement off some of the driveways. Right now you can count part of your visitor parking requirements on the driveways. So that could be a requirement. We could require that they only have 2-car garages instead of allowing some 1-car garages. Right now, we could require that the sidewalks are required in the front yards. That's how both projects have all ended up, but the ordinance wasn't specific. When we first saw some of these projects, they were meandering sidewalks all over the place in the developments. So those are kind of some of the ideas we talked about. If going back to the maps, if someone wanted to, let's say if they found a new area that they wanted to apply this ordinance, they would first have to come in, if the property, if we just tied the properties in the ordinance, then they'd have to come in first for an ordinance amendment. You could decide if you wanted to amend the ordinance and add their property to this planned residential development overlay, and then they'd have to also come back for a zone change. And so that'd make it a little bit longer review, but it gives you a chance to review it more, just make sure that's an area you know you'd want to add their map to the ordinance. So those were kind of some of the ideas I had. One thing, the legislature just passed House Bill 462 as well. We have to basically rewrite our moderate income housing plan again. We just wrote that 3 years ago. We've got to rewrite it again before October 1st. They redid a whole bunch of the 24 strategies that we have to look at. And so I haven't had a chance to go through all those to see which ones we may be interested in adopting. But as we do, you know, I'd hate to throw this ordinance out, you know, right now, if that's maybe something that one of those strategies may apply that we could accomplish through this ordinance. So as we go through that, maybe we can still consider how this ordinance may apply to help us, if it even would, to help us meet one of those 24 strategies.
And we know what those 24 strategies are now?
We do now, yep. As of Friday, we know. I need to dive into those more. Some of our current strategies won't work any longer that we've adopted, so we are going to have to look at adopting some new ones. I believe they've tied some to funding as well, that if you adopt more than 3, you can get more funding. They have also, they're being more strict on the implementation strategies. So instead of just adopting strategies, we now have to say how we're going to implement those. And we have to report on that instead of every December. We have to report on that every October now. So.
We did include another provision, this is a few years away still, but that for any corridors that are along a mass transit, including bus rapid transit, which will be factored into Linden along State Street and 700 North, that you have to adopt basically a small area master plan accommodating housing along those corridors. And so that's another change that we'll have to tackle at some point in the future. So this would be a good basis for something to be justified as starting from anyways.
All right, so council, it's before you here tonight. What would you like to see happen with this ordinance? What were the pinch points that we could circle back with Planning Commission and staff on?
I don't know how to define all of these things, but there's a point to where sometimes just the traffic impact from one parcel to another one is dramatically different as it impacts existing residential areas, as we saw. And I don't know how we define that. Maybe that comes that each location has to come through the process to try to avoid that conflict, because they're just not all the same. They just, some of them flow better than others, and some are very, very difficult in trying to make it fit, as we've seen.
And traffic studies those are interesting. You know, in my career, I've never had a traffic study that doesn't say, oh, this will work.
Yes.
And so I've heard it called, you know, voodoo science, and, you know, those are tricky.
You've never had one that won't work.
Right, yes. Sorry, I never
One that
had one
won't
that
work.
won't, yeah.
So Van, one of the recommendations that is up for discussion tonight is certainly like with the Norton property where we had such a large, deep parcel, you know, staggering the density as you go so many feet. Like here, what do you think of this language of where it immediately abuts commercial, it's as it stands now, but then it may have the opportunity to transition back if there's land that it has to, which is basically what we ended up with.
Yes,
The Norton property
that's where we got to
organically,
on that.
but we could
I mean, I'm
codify
liking
that.
these ideas
Yeah.
and suggestions. You know, if you say 6 to 8, it's 8.
It's not gonna be the lower number.
Well, I have a question in that regards too. I want to make sure I understand. On 17.76.080, development standards and requirements, I want to make sure on item number 2, density, a planned residential development shall not exceed an average density of 10 dwellings units per gross acre. Development phases with a density above 10 units to the acre shall be located adjacent to commercial uses. And then, as you said, densities as we go back further close to single-family residences would gradually tick down. So what I'm hearing is that there could be a situation where there's more than 10 to the acre, but it averages out where they wouldn't be more than 10 to an acre. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think I'd probably want to rewrite this section so that, you know,
It's a little more
whatever
clear.
density we're comfortable with, not saying that shall not, I'd probably want to just set those a little more firm.
But I mean, the way it's written,
Yeah,
that is my assumption correct?
yes.
Okay.
One of the conversations I had with Council Brian Hawes some time ago was when this was initially fashioned, we imagined that there would be some flexibility based on parcel by parcel, situation by situation. But now, since then, through last legislative session of 2021 and now current, the ability to have that flexibility is now no longer, we need to have it clear what the intent is. Yeah.
And I really like Mike's suggestion of right now adopting a map to identify these parcels where this will apply to these existing developments, because that gives us the discretion. If we get other applications that come in, we can always look to amend that map to add more in. But that's another layer that gives us a lot of discretion from a legal perspective. That legislative discretion, it gives us a lot more ability to say, hey, this doesn't work on this parcel, like you were saying, Van. And, you know, we could see these types of things. And so I really like the map proposal that Mike's talking about, because one, it doesn't create, if we just repeal this, we created a non-conforming use for these properties, and that impacts those property owners in their values and insurance and just a ton of things. So I really like the map that's being suggested.
I'm with.
So as I understand, sorry, and I'll let you go. So as I understand it, we would adopt what we've already approved,
Right.
and everybody else has to come.
Right.
Liking that a ton.
I would second what Van and Brian, what you said. I think that's where we need to be right now. You know, I feel bad. Daryl and I got to sit on the sidelines and watch as you guys got beat up over and over and over again. And so I feel so bad for that. I think every single time that someone comes in with something like this, it will be a very similar battle. I think that our residents, as you saw today, are very much still a little bit of country, and that there's still a battle there. So I do like the map approach and singling out those three so we're not non-conforming uses. Gives us the ability to say no to some of these that may come in. As I looked at the map, I worry that maybe we thought with this overlay that it would only specifically apply to those three, but there's several that could come in, tear down something, and put in a very similar development to what we saw today. And we may or may not want that. And so I am very in favor of the MAPS approach and would love to see that coming forward.
I am too. My biggest concern, and I don't think anyone it's no secret where I stand on density, which is fine. It is what it is. But I hope we're not using this as a reason or an excuse to ratchet down density automatically. I mean, we still have the ability to go up to 10. And I just don't, if we can go up to 10, which I would like it to be more, but that's probably a pipe dream. If we have the ability to go up to 10 and it makes sense, I don't want to get into a situation where we just automatically ratchet it down to 8 or 8.4. Does that make sense? I hope we don't get to the point where we just look at it and go, oh, well, we don't really want 10, we want 7.5, or we want, I think the ordinance is there, that's a number that we compromised and agreed on, I think. So that's just my biggest concern is, yeah, let's refine it, let's fix it, but let's don't fall into the habit of automatically saying, well, we said 10, but we really mean.
And who came up with that 10? You know,
That was in the 2016 ordinance already when
okay.
So we just kept that.
And it's the same as what we did in our development agreement with Ivory Homes.
What did we end up on the Linden Nursery and the Elwood piece?
Linden Nursery is like 9.4 and
8.4.
Elwood's is 8.4.
8.4.
Yeah.
Does that make sense though? Does that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. And part of the process is, we set up open space, we set up setbacks, front, rear, side. And then all of a sudden we start, they want an exception to that. And so we crunch those types of things too. So, yeah, and I'm probably, I'll just say it because you were open, I'm probably uncomfortable with 10 in these areas that we've looked at, plain and simple. I'm uncomfortable with that. And the people I talk to would echo that as well.
Well, and that's fine. I'm not so against that if the development itself, if the layout doesn't lend itself to 10 per acre. I mean, if we've got to have so much open space, so much landscaping, so be it. But again, I don't want just because of pressure. I think you talk to different people than I talk to as far as, again, what density is, high density is. And I've talked to many that don't think that 10 is anywhere near high density.
I've talked to other people that want more too.
Yeah. So I guess, again, that's my point. If the layout of the property, if after we apply all of the landscaping and design standards and so forth, it doesn't lend itself to 10, then okay, I'd consider that. But again, I don't want it to be just an automatic bias that we're gonna do everything we can to knock it down, to reduce it down.
So I'll work on that section and we'll take it through the planning commission and refine it and bring it back to you and refine it some more
Okay. Thank you though, Van. I know where you stand. I appreciate that.
Yeah, let me just add my opinions, Van. I as well, 10, there's not a lot of places where I would be comfortable with 10. Having just run a campaign, it's the #1 issue. It's the only thing you hear about when you campaign. It's the only issue that sets any candidate apart, is density. And I just think the grand majority, the large majority, seem to be in that, hey, there's a lot in Vineyard, there's a lot in Pleasant Grove, a lot in Orem. We don't want to be that. We want to be different. But I understand as well the need for affordable housing, and so
yeah, that's my concern. I'm sorry for interrupting, but that's my concern. Is again, I go back to the issue of our kids can't afford to live in Linden, and I recognize that with the cost of land. I mean, I guess this is public. I probably shouldn't say this, but Mr. Corbridge shared with me this morning what they paid, you know, for that property, and let's just say it was more than substantial. So that fact alone, you know, may prohibit lower price points. I understand that, but also I just don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Again, I haven't done a scientific survey, but I did campaign. That wasn't a big issue when I campaigned, but I just personally don't believe that there's a contingent in the city, the ones that they say it's going to affect, you know, the not in my backyard contingency. But I also think there's others that if you ask them and took a poll, I think they'd be indifferent. I mean, I think they'd be, you know, 10 per acre, wow. And we don't want to be Vineyard, or we don't want to be Orem, but then you're talking 50 per acre. You're talking 35 per acre. You're talking 60 per acre. So I'm not sure it's a fair comparison to say we don't want to be like Vineyard or we don't want to be like Orem. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Mike. Daryl, any thoughts?
I'm new to this concept, but I'm one of the opinion that we need to probably participate and be fair in affordable housing. What that means and how we define that, I don't know what that is at this point, but I had 2 children last year move out of Linden because they couldn't afford to live here, so I have to go to Spanish Fork and Lehigh to visit them.
Price of gas.
Yeah, so that's all I have.
All right.
I can bring up one more item.
Absolutely, please do.
This is just a side note, but we did meet this morning with a potential developer of the Norton property, which is Thornton. Sorry. Committee Thornton.
They'll rhyme, right?
Yeah, so that's this property here. This road will need to come through, so it kind of divides this property into 3. I know they're gonna be, you know, probably looking at something at 10 units to the acre, and I don't know if this ordinance fits, you know, we may have to do something different. It may be a new zone or something, but, you know, we've just started those discussions with them. They're gonna come back with a site plan. We've asked them to come before you for concept review first, get some feedback, but we're all, I think we're gonna see this pressure continually, I think, you know, if it's from developers or whether or not BRT comes through at some point, the state's gonna require us to do small area plans and have higher densities, that's that balance we're always gonna have to play on here, so.
All right.
I mean, one more thing, I lied, I am gonna say something else.
Go ahead.
Having mentioned that, when we did meet with the potential developer for the Thornton property, again, he shared with me what the ground cost. And again, it wasn't as much as Norton's, but it was still pretty substantial. I mean, we automatically put a burden on the Thorntons and on the developers. First of all, if we're gonna keep that road, which we are, that takes a very, very big chunk of property. The way we've got it broken up is it's in 3 separate pieces, and each piece is like, one is like 1.4, one is like 1.7, the other one's a little bit over 2. We need to take 2 acres of that for a detention basin or some kind of, you know, from the city. We can either buy it from them and then reimburse them for what they paid. But I guess my point is, we reach a point where, I know I've heard it said many times, we're not in the business to make sure developers make money. I don't agree with that necessarily. I mean, there's some issues there. But I think we have to face a reality that with the cost of land and the cost of, I mean, these developments have to pencil out for our developers. They have to. And whether that's our responsibility or not, I think it would be irresponsible not to consider, and again, they're gonna come in and ask for everything that they can get. I realize that. It's normal, it's natural. But again, that's my concern. The higher the cost of development goes, the more that has to be there for them to crack their nut.
All right. Thank you. So what I'm hearing is that council is feeling like visiting the ordinance and making some of these changes. So if we give staff direction, let's just look at these one by one. Mapping, having them prepare and present to us through Planning Commission to vet as well, some sort of a map that identifies the 3 parcels already entitled or additional parcels. Leave those off.
Just those 3 that.
Okay, very good. And then in regards to the suggestion for a housing transition, if it's a deeper lot or a larger acreage, what would be the direction from council in that regard to staff? That's there on page 113 near the bottom. Mike, do you want to expand upon that a little bit?
I mean, we tried to, on some of these, create the 30-foot rear yard setback, so it was similar to the requirement of the existing single family. I mean, we can look at options like, single family detached has got to be adjacent to single family detached or something, or, we can look at those options. I don't know yet. Those were just things I was throwing out.
Right.
I don't know how it plays out. Every lot's so different, but we can definitely look at different options.
Okay. I did hear from a couple planning commissioners that was one suggestion, and I'm sure there'll be a healthy discussion of that when it comes through them. And then the parking and driveways. Here the suggestion is that we try to increase the parking requirement. It looks like both these development, that was a pinch point for the public, quite a bit that under the existing ordinance, maybe there wasn't enough off-street parking, and we had to kind of
I think if we take
wrestle
it off the
that.
driveways, that adds 6 or 7 or so additional parking stalls for each development.
Abundant parking, is that something council would like to direct staff to look at with this revision?
I never like when people are parking on the road.
Well, we asked them to create more stalls.
Well, yes, I understand, but
Because it would be more parking in the road is what they were worried about.
I know how it works. There's my parking clear over here. I can park here on the road. I know where I'm parking.
Okay.
Are you good with the 2.5 stalls, but remove the driveway requirement? That increase, like I said, that increases for these 2 developments, 6, 7, 8 additional parking stalls.
The Norton property ended up with about 21 additional stalls.
They were able to count like 7 on their driveways.
But they went over and above what the ordinance required.
Oh, I think they're right. I think they're right there.
Okay.
They may be like 2 or 3 additional.
Okay. All right, any other feedback? This is a discussion item. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much and for all your hard work on that. All right, moving on to item number.
2 of us said we're uncomfortable with the 10.
Okay,
And there'll be a
moving on
difference in
to
opinion.
item
Sorry.
number 16. This is the general plan update bid award.
Yes, so we are excited to start updating our general plan. We reached out to 4 different firms on an open market bid. We received bids from Landmark Design, Voda Landscape and Planning, MHTN, and CRSA. Those were the 4 firms. The one I felt most comfortable with after doing a lot of reference checks, talking to other cities that are using Landmark Design, looking at their product that they provide, I felt most comfortable going with Landmark. They have a bid of $60,000. That the state, we added a couple things onto their bid since we discussed at our budget meeting. The legislature just passed a requirement last week that we have to have a water conservation element to the general plan, so we added that to their bid, and then we added 1 additional public outreach for Linden Days, so they'll do 2 of them instead of 1 outreach.
Yeah, I prefer that they do, we will do some outreach, but I prefer that they do that as part of their contract.
They will now.
Yeah, I saw that in there, so that's good.
Yeah.
Mike, how do they compare to the other three as far as price?
So Voda Landscape was 50,000. MHTN, I believe.
Those bids were without the water.
Without the additional scope of work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
there's been,
MHTN was right around 65,000. CRSA, they were between 100 and 120.
Surprised they would be that much more.
They weren't the lowest, but after we made some phone calls, we feel that we don't want to go with the lowest.
they had good recommendations, and they also are working on general plans of other communities that have a little bit of similar identity to Linden, like Mapleton. They're not going to give us a big urban design, South Salt Lake City.
Yep.
No, no harm.
Yeah.
Right, so,
Yeah, they've done a lot of work. Mapleton, Cottonwood Heights, Roy, Salem, Kaysville, just within the last year and 2 years.
right.
How often do we update our plan?
Typically every 10 years. I know we've done it more on a 5-year basis, isn't it?
We've
Or-
done sections. It hasn't had a comprehensive start to finish update for more than 10 years.
All right.
Yeah, it came out, the last one was in 2010.
All right. I'm not seeing that this is an action item, is that correct? Or, there's a, okay, it's not on the agenda here. All right.
I'll move to award the Linden City General Plan Update Contract to Landmark Design as presented.
All right, motion by Darrell,
Second.
seconded by Jake. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good.
And as the mayor said, we want to start putting a stakeholder committee. Would like to kick this off next month. And so if you have some ideas for a couple residents or business owners, we'd love to have them be on that committee.
Is that something that list that we need to circulate here in the public meeting or a future public meeting? One of the recommendations that I would like to make to council is that we try to get a sampling of all areas of Linden, as well as people from different.
Yeah, I want to advertise
backgrounds.
that, so anybody that has a passion about that could be a part of it, so that their voice could at least be heard.
Or, I'm just throwing this out, you need to appoint people that have a similar mindset as you, because what will happen is you'll appoint people that do not have that similar mindset, and you'll get recommendations that you aren't in favor of. And I ran into that in the last general plan, where there was opinions that were thrown out there that were more progressive than the council was willing to entertain, and we spun our wheels a lot on the general plan. So it's great to get a broad spectrum of the community, but if that's ultimately not a spectrum that you're in favor of, keep that in mind.
So I'm not suggesting that all of those are appointed to it, the people making the recommendations, but that they've had an opportunity to voice somewhere to submit.
And hopefully the public open houses will give that opportunity as well.
If that meets that, if it's. set
One
up
of the
that way.
things that was originally recommended was to just do an open house at the end of the year, and Mike and I discussed in that meeting with Landmark Design, no, let's get a community engagement touch point sooner than that. So we've discussed making it one of the Linden Days events where there'll be a lot of people already there congregating, where there can be some information presented, they can give feedback.
So Landmark Design, they will create a website for us that we will link to our website. They'll help us with a good social media presence. They'll help us
And I
with
think that
open
may
houses.
meets that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're excited to start working on this.
I did reach out to someone just to gauging their interest, and I know this is forthcoming, but one of the questions they had is, how often would we meet? How long are the meetings? I'm sure that's forthcoming.
So we're gonna plan 4 stakeholder meetings.
Okay.
So we're hoping to have this adopted in January. Let me just pull this up real quick. I've got it right here. So we would have 3 joint meetings with the Planning Commission, the City Council, and the stakeholder meeting, and the stakeholder committee in April, August, and December. the stakeholders committee will meet.
I did see that, thank you.
Did I put the wrong one in here? You know what, I think I may have put the wrong
Is that the first
schedule in
draft?
here. I think this is the first draft. You'll have the 3 stakeholder committee meetings, and then you will have you'll have the 3 joint meetings, you'll have a stakeholder committee here, in June, you'll have another one in October, and so they'll meet the 5 times.
Okay.
Great. All right. So we can, at the next council meeting, we can present this timeline and that list of individuals
Yeah,
to
that'd be
potentially reach out to. Okay, very good. And so please put in your suggestions, submit those to Adam and Mike for those that you would like us to get involved or, all right. And then also, so that item number 16, we've passed that. On to number 17, this is a public hearing for a review of employee compensation presented by Administrator Adam Cowie. So would anyone like to motion to open a public hearing again?
Also move.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motioned by Daryl, seconded by Van.
So
All in
on this,
favor, all in
we-
favor?
Sorry.
I apologize, I didn't move fast enough for you, Adam. Go ahead.
We are recommending, this is a little bit ahead of schedule, but just given some of the market forces that we're experiencing, ahead of schedule being we typically would do this at the time of budget adoption in June, but we're recommending that we make some adjustments based on the findings from our market rate study. So we evaluated all of the positions in the city and spent some time with comparisons from other jurisdictions for all of those positions that are comparisons similar to our city. And so we are not looking at some cities for supervisory type of positions. We wouldn't be making comparisons with Provo or Orem, whereas some other positions that may be similar between a city and regardless of their size, such as a receptionist or a lifeguard or a police officer, those are positions that we could compare to several cities regardless of their size within Utah County. So having completed those comparisons, what we were trying to target is to keep the pay ranges that are found on this pay ranges chart that we included in your staff report, trying to look at their beginning and ending and midpoint in their salary range and make sure that those are plus or minus 5% of being an average. And so our pay ranges are market averaged. We are not leading the pack in really any position as far as being way out ahead of paying more than other jurisdictions. Areas that we are experiencing more market pressures to be competitive is specifically within the police department. And so the primary component of the positions that we're looking to increase are within the police. On this midpoint percentage here on this column are the percentages that these positions started out at as being either positive or negative below the midpoint in the market, and then where we're ending up is moving these so that they're within that plus or minus 5 percentage points of the average. Collectively, in this current budget year, this would be approximately $24,200 increase to our current budget through the end of June, and then for next fiscal year, it's projected these adjustments would be about $72,608 in additional funds, primarily out of the general fund for the police departments. So
These numbers are based on that already with the 6% increase, and this is now on
these
top of it.
include, the 6% was factored into our study with the other.
In the study.
Yeah, so that chart includes the 6% that was approved in January. So then we used that number to do our comparisons. So even with the 6%, yeah, we were on that midpoint range difference. We were significantly below average on several of our positions. So, and what's being proposed to you tonight are just those amendments that were more than 5% below market average on their pay range. Except for a few of the police where we're recommending they be moved so that we can keep up with some of our other cities.
So Adam, anything changed from when we discussed this a few weeks ago?
No.
Okay.
And for clarification, you're proposing that this is adopted to be...
What we're recommending is that this be considered
Timeline.
for approval tonight, and then we'll bring the dollar figure to you in the budget amendment at our next meeting in 2 weeks. And
The
yeah,
wages would be effective,
they would be effective on the pay period starting March. Let's see here, did I put that in there? That was thought of, and I don't know if I put it in here, Carolyn.
Towards the end of the month.
We are recommending that this be approved on this current pay period, which started, I believe, on Saturday this last week.
so
that would
question,
be-
we just had the 6%. Is there a particular reason why we want to, and some gave this sense that there was a lot of goodwill by that move. Is there a particular reason why we would want to adopt this prior to just when we would have the budget adoption?
Because I think I will have officers leave for more pay somewhere else. So this shift will increase the range and the salary on several police positions. So I would be shocked if we don't have people apply to other agencies if this doesn't happen sooner than later. We have neighboring jurisdictional entities that are paying several dollars an hour more than we are right now. And so this will help bring us more in line with that, where I would hope that they stay.
What about on the other ones, the outside of the police department? Do you concern that they will leave as well?
No, these are in positions that I think out of these, the staff engineer would be the one I'm most concerned about. There's a lot of pressure for engineers right now and a lot of openings. If you chose to wait, the dollar amount on all of those for the remainder of the fiscal year was really small. It was about $3,000. So these other positions, we're not shifting them in any significant way as far as current pay. Collectively, yeah, the majority of this 21,000 of that 24 is all within the police department for this current fiscal year.
You know, as we've discussed this and I've talked when we did the 6%, sorry, I have to get up here. I was concerned that we would, and concern's not the word, knew we needed to do more for the police. I guess my goal, we will never price anything where some won't look. And I don't think that's my goal, is that it, you know, you're gonna get one or two no matter what.
So on that last column on the right is where the midpoint in their range is the key factor that we're comparing. So if you look at those police numbers, we would be looking at the highest would be the 4.9% over the midpoint. We have neighboring cities that are their midpoint in their range are in the 10 or 12% above where we're at. And so this is not paying those ranges significantly higher, but at least if you look at some of those numbers up above, we are consciously signaling to those employees that we are paying you below market average, and we know it. I don't feel that I can do that with how competitive police officers are right now.
Well, as an employer of many years, it's costly to have to replace and reteach and re-educate. And I'm always in favor of paying police officers as much as we can possibly afford.
All right, any other questions, comments? Do any of you feel like we would benefit from an illustration of what the midpoint, those graphs and those charts showing the career track of the steps that, so there's two things here that I understand, Adam, is for some of these positions, you want to create have them be in a different pay range, so over the course of their career, they have more steps of progression.
Correct.
As well as then doing a market adjustment.
No, that is the market adjustment.
That is the
So
market,
there's-
just by simply changing the range. Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at this current pay range, these numbers here, so for instance, police officers are currently in 17. We're recommending that they be moved to the proposed range of 18. And that corresponds to this chart. So the current range is 17 for a police officer. We're proposing they move to range 18. And then where they fall in that, we're typically on most positions just recommending they go to to that range that's proposed, to the step that's closest without paying them less. So in most cases, they're all bumping up to a higher pay step just because of where it fits on the range.
Why is there a difference between the total increase and then the amendment that's gonna come next council meeting? Is it some excess?
So the total increase, sorry, that I should have identified that better. That is on an annual basis, a yearly basis. And so that would be if we started July
Starting now
1st.
to the end of June
Yeah, so in our next fiscal year, this would be the increase change. Whereas we're recommending it early, it would be the 24,200 through the end of June, and then it would be the 72,608 for the next full year. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs here has a very good question in this public hearing that I hope he will ask.
I didn't know if we were still in that.
We are in a public hearing, so yes.
Here it comes.
What's our turnover rate compared to other cities' turnover rate?
I don't,
Turnover rate's huge,
yeah,
very costly.
I don't know the answer to that to compare to other cities, so.
You don't know everything, Adam, you always have all the answers to all the questions.
We did recently have an officer change to a different city, just in the past couple of weeks, give their notice. We have some others that we hope we have retained by the recent action. Our chief felt that went a long ways, so.
Yeah.
So I am very you hate to spend more, but I think this is a necessary thing and a prudent thing to do for the city. And so I am in favor of this. I don't know how long you want to discuss and ask questions, but.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to sit down with Adam. I appreciate Adam making time to kind of show me how the sausage is made here a little bit, walk me through the program we're using for this. You know, I always worry about wages. They exponentially grow, and I think I'm in favor as well, but maybe if I could have one ask with my vote is that maybe at the March 21st meeting, could we get maybe a 5-year average of what the wages increase has been. So what we paid in wages in 2017, 18, 19, each of those budget years. I imagine Kristen can pull those.
Total across the board?
Total wages. I want to see what increase, what percentage we've been at with the jobs we've added and the merit and COLA that we've added. I'd be curious to see that. Thought I had today and quickly tried to look through the budget, and it's a little more
It's hard to follow that, and keep in mind, they all don't come from the same funding sources, and so.
I agree.
So
And a
you're gonna have
budget?
general fund positions that are paid out of the general fund, you'll have positions paid out of the enterprise funds.
Right. I'd like to see a total wages number for Linden
Okay.
City last 5 years.
Okay, I can provide that.
Benefits?
Probably just wages, you know, because
have
benefits has gone up quite a bit as well. But I'm curious. I tried to do that quickly, and I realized very quickly that it's not
very complicated to do that.
not something that quickly come up, but it's something I think is important for us to look at, and I think it'll show how exponentially it grows. That doesn't change my opinion on this, that we do need to move forward. So,
Okay. Again, just to clarify, that will show an increase just because we've had raises in 5 years.
oh, I agree.
Okay.
I think it'll show a significant increase because we've added employees as well, right?
Yeah, we have.
I agree.
Okay.
I'm curious
guess
how much that is.
How much that is, okay.
You know, I
if
could see a
there's,
scenario
what
where
are
over the
you
last
looking
5
for,
years,
I
we've
guess?
increased probably 30-40% even.
Oh, no, there's no way that we've increased wages 40%.
In total wages paid. That expense line on the profit and loss, I imagine, is a pretty significant jump over the last 5 years.
I'll find out what that is.
And some of that increase is to also match the inflationary
Oh, I agree.
moves that are happening
With
as
COLA
well.
and raises, but I mean, we're multiple millions in our employee compensation, and so.
Right.
Yeah, I would be shocked if we're at 40% increase in 5 years, but we'll find out.
We'll find out.
It's something to watch, right?
So let me ask, does that change?
It does not change. I think that's
this
good information to have. It doesn't
Okay.
change my opinion on tonight.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, we need to move along,
But
so go ahead. Oh, go
Yes.
ahead, one more public
You
question.
guys are awesome. I don't know how you stand the barrage of things that hit you guys, but you guys do awesome.
We're glad we made him
We
time for that.
appreciate having an audience member stick it out through all these.
Kathy, can we have that bolded on the?
Yeah, get that in the minutes.
You will get a cookie tonight, Lincoln.
So unless there's something else like that, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, very good. Okay, motion by Van, seconded by Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. All right.
If you're
so-
okay, I would like to make the motion.
I would, thank you.
I move to approve the amended employee compensation as presented with the direction to include the budget modifications in the next budget amendment.
All right, very good. We have a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Van, seconded by Daryl, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I hear all in favor, none opposed. Okay, that carries. So moving forward then on to number 18, review and action. My goodness, we've gotten to the end and it's not even close to the time that Daryl needs to head out. So
We did
good
it.
job,
No,
everybody.
we're gonna take an hour.
Unless this takes an hour.
We're not done.
I should probably not speak too soon, right? Okay.
So about a year ago, our staff, Alex Roylance, our facilities and fleet manager, and Jamie Jensen from the senior center, they jointly submitted an application to Mountain Land Association of Governments, and they were approved for a $30,000 grant to update this south front entrance on the community center. Just visually, if you can think of on the inside of that building, there's this long hallway that kind of separates the north and south sides, and there's a door in between. There's often rentals that will only pick up one side or the other, and when they're on the south side, there's an older ADA ramp that's on the very south end of the building that doesn't currently meet current ADA standards. It's a little bit difficult for somebody in a wheelchair to maneuver. Or in a walker of that sort. And so on that south end, what they're looking to do is basically put in a vestibule to help control some of the cold air coming in and out of that foyer. And then they would have a ramp that would look very similar to the north side. So remove the steps and then put in a ramp with a hand railing like this that comes out to the asphalt. So we bid that out and put it on the state website. We only had 2 bids. One was about $95,000. The low bid was this one that we're recommending for the award, $74,500, and then that would be offset by the $30,000 grant that we received from the CDBG program. Questions on this? We're recommending proceeding on this. When we originally had estimates a year ago, it was estimated it would cost about $60,000. I think the longer we wait, the more this might cost. So looking for your thoughts and then an action item if you want to move forward.
It's not gonna get any cheaper.
The vestibule is, do we have a cost breakdown? I'm curious how much the vestibule is, and
I don't have an answer on that,
is
Jake.
that
Sorry.
necessary? Or how much it would be to just put a ramp? I understand the ADA needs, or improve the ramp.
I would have to check with Alex and see if that was broken down.
I'm curious.
Is that, sorry, I'm gonna, going along that same.
Let me
Does that
call Heath.
replace the same, or does that replace the existing storefront portion?
No, that's just adding.
Vestibule coming outside the building?
Yes.
Onto the
I
left.
couldn't, I had a hard time telling on that drawing.
Yeah, so on this drawing would be looking at the current porch that's all covered and then adding the vestibule. So it's one set of new doors and then with those sidewall aluminum storefront type of.
Are the interior doors somewhat weatherproof as folks come in, then is that the goal there?
I think the majority of that was to help control the weather
Right.
aspect of the foyer every time those doors open. When you have those push button ADA doors, they'll open and they stay open for I don't know, 30 or 45 seconds.
Yeah, quite a bit of time.
So that was the point of the vestibule, was to help contain some of that.
They'll both be open at the same time.
That's probably true. I'm gonna call Heath really quick. See if he can answer that for us.
So it looks like from the drawing that he'd be looking to enclose the current porch.
No.
Doors.
Hey, Heath, I've got you on speaker with the council. A question on the vestibule that's part of this ADA upgrade.
Yes.
Is the vestibule necessary in some fashion, or can the ramp and the vestibule be separated? Tell us the reasoning behind the vestibule, other than trying to keep the cold air out.
Yeah, that is part of it. The other part of it is, I think that we were thinking about having enough room between those two doors to have the ramp at the proper angle. But to be truthful, I don't think that they needed to have a vestibule on that. The Holy Cow Boutique has requested that first part of the outside be enclosed so they can have more register room, but that was not a driving factor. I don't think it was, other than just a request to keep the heat in and to do the ramp. They are kind of separate in my mind.
Okay, so if we,
What's the cost on that?
yeah, I don't know if you would know, Heath, because Alex was handling the bids on the cost. Do you know what the cost difference was offhand on just the vestibule?
Gosh, I don't. I saw the bid, or I saw
The
the
total.
application when he sent it in, but I didn't really look at the bid when it came back. Alex has kind of done that.
Yeah. Okay,
I'd say
Okay.
15 to 18 is probably what it'd be.
okay, thanks, Heath.
Okay, you got it.
All right, bye.
The actuators are
Do you want us to modify that and just do the ramp?
Or do you want to get more information? And does this have a timeline that's urgent to do it, make an
I'm
action
assuming that
tonight?
we could bring this back in 2 weeks, then that's not gonna change much.
Yeah, I'd like to see that price for just the vestibule, as opposed if we just do the ramp to meet ADA.
Okay, let's just continue that item and I'll
Maybe
bring that to you.
clarification on what the vestibule, where it is exactly in relation to the porch and the building and.
Yeah, that vestibule is underneath the covered area.
Looks like it comes out
It
5
is,
feet.
so if you look at that photo of, it is basically coming out 5 feet from those existing doors and just having a new glass
So the porch
box.
would be covered.
The porch is
5 feet
already
outward.
covered.
But
It's not
enclosed,
It's not
enclosed.
enclosed.
This would,
So
okay.
that drawing is if you're looking down on top of the porch, the only enclosed part. So you're talking about this entire thing being enclosed. What's being proposed is just a
It's just a-
five
okay.
by 5 area out in front of the current doors to put a second set of doors.
There's a cost
Thank you.
on heating and air conditioning loss, so it's benefit long-term, but you would
Maybe.
never know how to determine what that is.
Yeah. Okay, I'll get some more information if you guys want to motion
Adam,
to continue.
along
that,
those same
so.
lines, how's our elevator usage that we put in?
It's periodic, but it does get used, and it's varying persons. So, but yeah, I don't have a count for you. We could probably find that out.
I don't want, no, I'm just
Okay.
curious.
It may have a counter on it. I don't know, but several times a week. It's more than you'd think. So.
Adam, I know this is kind of unrelated, but do we know what we've cleared off of Holy Cow? What do we typically?
On sales tax,
Yes, what do we typically? Well, we charge them a rental, don't we? But that's.
they have a rental agreement, yeah. I don't offhand, but I can find that out.
Oh, well, again, is if you happen to be in that file, that's
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Just wondering.
Okay, this is our last item on the agenda tonight.
So do we need to make a motion to
Motion to
continue?
Continue.
I'll make that motion to continue the bid award for the Senior Community Center vestibule and entryway upgrades pending additional information.
All right, do we have a second to continue?
Second.
All right, motion by Daryl, seconded by Van. All in favor to continue the motion?
Aye.
Is that, I assume, a matching grant too?
We have to at least match the 30 that
Right.
they gave us, yeah. So,
All right. We have one more thing that needs to happen, but
Motion to adjourn.
okay, there it is. There's our man. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion, and I'll, just for the record, you got that there, Kathy? Okay, thank you so much.
Good.
Oh.
We were here for the duration.
All right, Lincoln, come up and get your cookie.
Done, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Lincoln.
You guys teach me so much. Amazing. Every single week. That's always an interesting. Doing a good job winging it.
You do a lot of studying. You don't have that tilt trailer